Hey,
Happy 4th, you guys.
Happy 4th.
Happy 4th.
Happy 4th.
All right. Nice to see you guys. Welcome.
Thank you, man. Good to see you.
Good to be
Yeah. We are live. It is July the 4th, 2021, 10 p.m. here on the East Coast. We got the Analog Kid. We got Mr. Charles Green. We got Neil Daly in the house. And we got John Conklin with us tonight.
Welcome, John.
Welcome, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
There
me.
he is.
Thank you. Great to be here.
How you doing, John?
Doing pretty well. How about you guys?
Excellent.
Good, good. How was everybody's 4th? What did everybody do?
Cooked.
Cook, yeah.
I bought a dehumidifier for the basement.
Nice.
Exciting. Excellent.
Yeah, right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Guys, the fireworks going off outside. Last night it was like 50-50 gunfire, fireworks. Tonight we're about 20% gunfire, 80% fireworks. So we're on the good side.
Yeah.
It's crazy out there. It's crazy.
I know. It
Crazy.
is
I remember
here,
it's
too.
a big difference from this time last year.
Yeah.
Right, for
Big
sure.
difference, guys. Things are getting back to normal. That's a good thing.
Yeah, the weird thing I noticed is last year in Los Angeles, fireworks went off for about a month. They lasted every night for about a month. I couldn't believe people didn't run out of them by the middle of July, but they didn't. So I'm kind of hoping tonight's it. Like let's calm down.
Yeah. I know.
I hope for you, brother. I hope.
Well, my dogs are on edge. They've been on edge for a couple hours. Yours too, John, huh?
Yeah, one of them is. The other one's he's fine, but this one is only about 8 months old, so we're trying to feel him out to see how he's reacting to it. But I don't think he knows what's going on, so he hasn't a clue. But
Yeah.
we'll figure it out.
I got 3 small dogs, all small, like Chihuahua-sized dogs, and it's only 7 here. So at about 9 o'clock, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to step away and calm them down.
Yeah. I know. Mine are on edge and pacing around, and yeah, they are. So John, man, I've been listening to that song of yours on YouTube all week. I first heard it, I guess, about a month ago when you were on Andrew's show with those guys, but that is a great tune, dude.
It's a wonderful tune, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun to do. I just figured, we're all fans, and it's like, it's great to see fans doing stuff like this, tribute songs to Eddie. I love all that stuff. So I figured I'd like I said, it was very enjoyable to do. It came very quickly. Within a day, I had the whole musical in my head, and even the demo that I did of it, real quick, I had it's pretty much the exact same solo. It was just kind of that's pretty much what I did when I did the final version. And I had to have hand surgery at the end of April, so I was home for about 3 weeks, and I really couldn't play the guitar too much. Whoa. But I built the drum track during those 3 weeks. So I tried to put some Easter eggs, like Van Halen Easter eggs in it. So awesome. the kick drum and the snare are really Alex's kick and snare from the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album. I was able to,
love that
25 years ago, we figured out a way with a sampler to sample the kick and the snare, and a drummer that I played with, we set it up so he used an electronic kick and snare so we could play, and it would sound, through the PA, when we were playing, it would sound like Van Halen. It was great. So
Excellent.
now with the new technology, Logic Pro X and Pro Tools and things like that, they have the sampler built right in. So my nephew lives in Santa Barbara. He's a drummer and he's a whiz with Logic. So I asked him, hey, help me set up the the sample with this. So he's helped me set it up from there, and then I ran with it. But every note I had to go in there and quantize, and the kick, the double bass part, and so that took a while to do. But everything else was pretty quick, actually. So
it was ridiculously done, man. It's a wonderful, wonderful job.
Oh, it is, man. It's great. You guys watching, that link is down below. Go click that link and open up a window and have some cool music in the background while you watch, man. It's great.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I tried to get a little Van Halen vibe with it, and it was kind of inspired by the live concert video, Live Right Here, Right Now, and Judgment Day. Sammy says, "Surf is up, Eddie."
Yeah.
He's doing the solo, and I just love that scene because to me that kind of like sums up Eddie and that solo where he's jumping up and down, and just the camera shots on there. He's just having a great time, and so that's why I called it "Surf's Up, Eddie" because of that, really. And I tried to put some surf chords in there a little bit too. So
it's funny you said, John, that you sampled it for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, because when I first heard it last night, the minute I heard it, I said, this sounds like something that would be right off that album. So you definitely nailed that sound.
Yeah,
I heard it, I said, it sounds like it could be on that record.
Right, and somebody said I thought it was an outtake or something from there.
Yeah.
But I got the Eventide pedal. You guys play guitar at all?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you guys know the pedal, but they actually have like a plug-in for Logic too. So I bought that. It was like $100, and it just makes everything just sound. You dial it in, and it's like it's Eddie right there. So I put that on. If you heard the raw tracks, it was just a SM57. That's the head and the amp, and I just had an SM57 there.
That's awesome.
And underneath this, I have like the pedal board, but I didn't really use anything on that. I all the effects were in Logic, believe it or not, and I actually, when I was coming up with it, I actually used this guitar. This is what I came up with it on.
Nice.
But I recorded it on a USA Wolfgang Stealth. I have that too. I got one of those. Yeah. So
nice guitar.
Yeah, it really is a nice guitar.
Hey, can we see that guitar again?
Yeah.
Can you show that again, please?
Yeah, sure.
Give us a little demo again. Tell us what we're talking here. What are we looking at?
This is a lock body, but I kind of heavily everybody loves the paint jobs and stuff that the guys do, but I'm a stickler, and my friend Joe Suma, who owns Greenwich Music, you'll see him on all the boards and stuff too. He hosts EVH Con each year. Mm-hmm. So him and I are sticklers about the body shape, and a lot of the body shapes on the replicas, they're just not kind of accurate to the real 5150. So that's everybody's got a little thing about it, different parts of the guitar, but that's the one that him and I have a stickler about. So I spent months on this thing, like trying to shape it to from the pictures to be as close as possible. Like we always say, like this one is more of like a shark fin shape on Eddie's. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them it's too round. So so I spent
John, it's kind of funny. We've talked about that ad nauseum. That exact point you just made about we've talked. Kurt and I have discussed this and we've talked about it with other people. A lot of people are just doing Beretta replicas,
exactly,
and that's not the body shape.
Beretta, right.
As a matter of fact, you'll be hard pressed to find. Chances are the bodies Kramer was using that they gave to Eddie weren't even stock guitars that they ever put on a commercial guitar.
Exactly.
So it's they say it was the 82, 83 Pacer era, but if you look at the vintage Kramer page and see how the body shape changed time year after year, I still don't think they have the exact one Eddie had.
No, I think you're right. And I think that, technology's changed. They have all these CNC machines that cut the bodies now, but I don't really know much about that end of it, but I do know that I think that when there is some handwork done on them, I believe with like a router, they do the round over on the edges. Yeah. And I think that's where kind of human error kind of comes in, because
absolutely.
Even those Kramers that you see now, the new ones like the 84 or whatever like that, sometimes you'll see that the horns are completely different shaped on, from one to another. So I do believe that's, plays into it also. But I'm like people say I'm a lunatic about this stuff, and Joe is too. But I tried to get this one in as close as I possibly could, and I had the neck made by Music Craft, and then I had a Strat headstock on it, and then I had Paul Unkert, the guy who did the real one. Yeah, so I sent it had Music Craft just send it from New Jersey, right from I guess they're down by Philly to New Jersey to where Paul is, and then Paul had it all ready to go, and he chopped it all up and and turned it into this. I mean, you can see a little bit underneath. I don't know if you can see in the light here. You probably can't, but you can see the old where he plugged the holes under here, right over here.
Oh yeah, okay.
I don't know if you can see it on there. Yeah, I have like.
That's awesome.
I have before and after photos, and it's kind of cool because he does this. I know I think he's like semi-retired. I don't know. He still does works on people's guitars, but you can call him up and talk to him on the phone. I don't know if you guys have but he'll do this for you, and it's not like that expensive to get done to have the headstock changed. So all you got to do is send him a Strat, type headstock, and he'll do it for you. And he actually has the original stamp that he used on all of the guitars he built for Eddie. He said he built like 18, I think, for Eddie overall, and he left in I guess the end of '82. He said, but I believe like the Hot for Teacher guitar, I think he striped that one up. You could tell that it's kind of different than the 5150, like the style of the striping. And I think that those ones were done by the other guy, maybe George Felice or somebody else. And but and he did also have the double neck. I think Paul striped that. You could tell like the style is a little bit different. But he built the necks for the 1984, the 5150, and the Hot for Teacher. And I guess one is small, which was the Hot for Teacher. It's like a smaller. The 5150 was the medium, and the 1984 guitar was the larger headstock. But he still has the same tools, and he stamped the heel of the neck with the same stamp he used on Eddie's guitars. It says UNK. He goes, and that's how he knows that anybody could take the neck off Eddie's guitar. Really cool. If they look on the heel and it has UNK, the stamp on it, he goes, then it's one of mine that I did. He said, I stamp all my guitars like that. So it's kind of cool that he's he stamped, has a stamp on it, and he did the headstock, and it came out pretty cool.
That's gorgeous. That's gorgeous, man.
Yeah, it came out pretty cool. And I put a JB in there, a Duncan JB, because I know a lot of people think it's different things, but I think it's a JB. Okay. I don't know why. I don't know why. Yeah.
Yours, man. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it came out pretty cool. I like it. Eventually I'll probably do it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's gorgeous.
Hey, John, real quick, going back to what you were saying about the your drum track for your song. And CK just pointed this out. I loved the. We talked about this on a prior show when we were going through like best songs in the albums, and we ranked these a while ago. A show that went over 4 hours long, by the way. But yeah, I apologize to our viewers. We won't do that tonight. But I had mentioned in that conversation that the opening drums in Pound Cake was what brought me full circle, because I'd lost a little bit of interest in the percussion sounds, not the band, but the percussion sounds during the 5150 and OU812 tour, OU812. And the organic, wet, heavy sound of the drums on For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge brought me right back. It kind of took me out of that 80s processed kind of sound, electronic drums, the electronic tom-toms and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's oh God, I love that sound. So it's really cool that that's what you brought into your music.
I agree 100%.
Did you grab that from a specific track?
I did. That's how nutty I am, because you had to try to find a sample on. Yeah, right. I'll be honest with you. I'm not the early albums. I'm not crazy about the drum sound. Like Van Halen 1. I just don't think his voice didn't come into its own. And like around Fair Warning, you could start to hear that unique, more snare kind of crack that he has to the snare. And you then Diver Down, obviously. And then 1984, you hear it like on All Wait, you can just hear that.
Oh yeah,
that tone of that snare. But so I was looking for an album where I could isolate, where it was just a kick and a snare. And I always loved For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. And it turns out that, and like I said, 25 years ago, we were like, we spotted it. You know, it was like, aha, there it is. So the beginning of In and Out, it just goes kick, snare, boom, 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 boom. Like that, so that's where we sampled that kick and that snare from there. And it has no hi-hat, no cymbals, nothing in the background. So that's why I was able to use it. Because of that.
So you grab those two sounds from the intro, and then from there you were able to process a drum all the way through.
Add to
it. For extra toms and cymbals and all that.
I used on Logic. I believe I may have used an actual Logic drums set that was built into Logic for like a hard rock one, just for the crash cymbals and the hi-hats on there. And if you notice, there isn't really any toms on that. I just kept it. I wanted to keep it like just a driving kind of beat. But the one thing is, if you listen to the very end, I actually sampled the end of, I think it's Top Jimmy at the very end. Yes. So if you listen to the end of the song, when you hear it like the ending, and then you'll hear that I actually clipped a little bit of that roll at the end of Top Jimmy and put it on there. So it's one of those little Easter eggs that
well thought out, man. Well thought out.
Yeah. And then in the solo, it jumps to like an F sharp. I think it's F sharp or F sharp minor or something. I actually took part of the solo, not from him, I just played it, but I took the lick from Hot for Teacher, the solo in there. Now that I tell you, you'll probably listen and be like, oh yeah, that's where that one's from. But you can hear it in there too. So I tried to put little things. You sampled
part of Eddie's solo into it?
I didn't. It's me playing it, but I was playing the exact thing. Yeah. I just extended it a little bit, but it's exactly like what he was playing on that part right there. It fit perfect. So I was like, let me go for it,
Excellent.
So, yeah. And then I tried to put little things in there. I put like the little elephant in one part in there, and when I'm pushing my string on the pickup, like the clicking noise, a couple times in there too, just to a little Eddie flavor on it,
yeah, lots. I love the main tone and tasty tapping too.
Yeah, it's a good tribute.
Yeah. So it came quick, like I said. It was like I felt like and you hear people that are real songwriters and stuff. They all say it wrote itself. Well, that's how that thing was. It was almost like I just picked up the guitar and started playing it. And I had the original thing on my iPhone from that night at like 1:30 in the morning, and it's like pretty much identical to what it is. And then the demo the next day, and it's so funny because I did it without a click track, and I tried to just dub some drums in, and I was driving my wife crazy in the car. And because it was so off to the drum track, I go, no, but try to listen to the big picture. And she's like, are you out of your mind? This is all over the place. I go, don't worry, I'll fix it. I'll get it straightened out. So it took a few months, but finally I finished it.
Wonderful, man.
Yeah.
How were you able to match the production values of that, historic record?
I'll tell you,
your demo.
Yeah, you know what? What the key for me for the whole thing was, where it really came together. I'm at home with a little, MacBook and my Logic and all this stuff on it. But when I sent it to an online mastering company that mastered it, it was only like $20 to do it. But that's what made it.
$20 to master it?
Yeah, you know what it is? It's not like a real person is mastering it. It's like some kind of program. They built like a stack of, you just submit it in, and then they put it through all this stuff. But let me tell you something.
That's still much cheaper than I've ever seen them for.
Yeah,
That's a good deal.
I did it like twice in there, and I didn't like the first one. If you notice, it's very drum heavy because I just love the way those drums sound. And the first mix didn't have the drums and the bass loud enough for me. I wanted it to be a little more like punching you with the drums. So I remixed it. I sent it back again, and the second one is the one I used. But that made the hugest difference. The mastering, I couldn't believe it. I'm like,
were you just sending them an MP3 file?
I was just an MP3 file. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God.
The mastering, that's the vibe and production sound that you wanted.
Yeah, well, the drums help a huge amount, and also the that eventide on the guitar. It's if I sent you the raw track without that, if I just clicked it off, it sounds great, but it just, as soon as you hit that eventide on there, it's Eddie. It's it's amazing that when you click that on, you turn that on, it just sounds like Eddie right away. So, and it sounds like that particular album too. So, which helps, you know what I mean? You can dial it.
Man.
When we're done tonight, I don't want to, have this monopolize the evening, but when we're done tonight, you'll have to send me a link to the contact company that did your mastering, because that track sounds great.
Yeah,
sounds
great. I definitely will. Yeah. But that, so the drum sound being actually Alex's, pretty drum,
Right.
that helped. And then that eventide on the guitar really, made it pop too. But then when it was mastered, it was like, what a difference. It just brought it right out, everything right in your face. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and
man.
it was like when I played just a regular mix of it in the car, and then I played it was right around the time Wolfgang's album was coming out. So I kind of A-B'd it to that, or I'd A-B it to, to something off the Greatest Hits album of Van Halen that was remastered, like a song from Run Around or something that was on the Greatest Hits, but I knew it was remastered because for some reason we know they haven't remastered any of the Sammy era albums. I hope they'll get around to that.
5150.
Right, exactly. So, but I would A-B this with them just to see how it blended in. And before I would just mix it down and play it in the car. And when I A-B'd it, it sounded so weak compared to that. But as soon as I got the mastered copy back and I played it there, it was like seamlessly, it's like, wow, this sounds like very professional. It definitely popped like a real.
Yeah, because we live in a world nowadays where even demos, even when you submit demos, because I do this as a songwriter, I write demos and submit for other artists now.
Right.
But demos now have to have that mastered quality.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's just the world we live in. So if you're getting them done for $20, then it makes it pop like that. Oh, I'm all in.
Yeah,
good deal, man. Good deal.
I googled it online. I'll tell you about it. All that stuff later.
Yeah. Tell me about it later. But long story short, congrats on the track. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Yeah, it's by a fan for fans. We're all.
It's all about. It's what it's all about, man.
For the man, for Eddie.
Oh yeah, it's a happy track too.
Yeah, I didn't want to make it a downer, and I ended it on purpose with like an E add 9 chord at the very end, and it's a very happy chord at the very end, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to end it on a positive note. So right before the top Jimmy drum roll, you'll hear that E add 9 chord on there. So
you really captured that 91 vibe, John.
Yeah, I love that era. I'm sure you guys.
It sounds like it could have been on that record. It's very.
I love the sound of that record. I just
great.
I was obsessed with it. You know what I mean? I'm like, how did they do that? And and like you were saying, Neil, that. You kind of got turned off to the drum sounds, really, because I love the 1984 sound. I thought those Simmons picks with the rototoms and the real snare, I thought it sounded just great. And I'm like, how did they do that in that little tiny, because I was telling on Andrew's show that the main room of the studio is 17 by 35. That's the footage of it, 17 feet by 35. And if you've seen the pictures with the beer cans on the floor and Alex is, in the back. And Eddie used like 1 4/12 cabinet. I guess that was it.
Yeah.
And with baffles around it, and it was just turned backwards. And I'm like, how did they get, Don Landy get that album to sound like that? It was amazing. But 5150 with the complete Simmons, it just didn't sound right. And even though U812, it just they just didn't have that. So I think when they added that other room on the studio, it just and I know they used like 25 microphones on the kit, and you know that picture we see with the tape wall in the back where Eddie's got all the tapes? That used to be, there used to be storage rooms there. I don't know if you remember. If you see the pictures, there were doors there. And I know they had the doors open, and they even had like ambient room mics in there in those when they recorded that album for Unlawful Carnival.
That's cool.
They didn't want to use any fake reverbs, I guess. They wanted to use like the real room sound.
Yeah.
But so since then they must have taken the wall because you can see it's all open there now. But I know they used about 25 microphones on that kit, and it's funny because Andy Johns did some great Led Zeppelin albums.
Yep.
And they used like that triangular miking on Bonham's kit. It was only like 3 microphones, and they got those huge sounds on there.
Yeah.
So, but I geek out and obsess over all that stuff.
Do you
That's
think
awesome.
John, part of the
So
attack,
impressive, man.
John, do you think part of the comparison with Andy Johns and John Bonham, do you think besides the room quality and the 3 mics, do you think it's a lot of it is Bonham's attack?
I definitely think so.
The instrument.
I definitely think so. I mean, and Alex, you could tell, is a huge Bonham fan, and it's like Alex plays behind the beat like Bonham, I think, more than Jason Bonham does. You know what I mean? I think Alex, when he gets in that Bonham kind of groove, like that Cabo Wabo kind of, I think he really stays behind that beat like Bonham did. You know what I mean? I don't know, but it's obsessive for guitar players and stuff. We're obsessed over Alex's. I walk around sometimes with an empty paper towel roll And I'm telling you, try it and hit it on your arm, and it sounds like Alex's snare. So I'll go around with it. And I'm telling you, next time you get an empty paper towel roll, just hit it on your arm. It sounds like Alex's snare. So, anyway, I'm crazy.
That's awesome.
No, you're not. You're actually not. I mean, like I said, when I'm doing my demos and everything, I loop my own drum tracks to it. So I kind of obsess far more about the stuff than I even need to, because I'm just selling a demo.
Right.
But
exactly.
it's still your baby. It's still your project. Yeah.
But it's expected now, right? You said that.
It's expected
crazy,
now.
Right?
It's absolutely expected now. I mean, you need to sound like, and so I obsess over room tone too, like you guys just said. I mean, that's one of the things, the nice thing about what you do, what you mentioned, you can A/B it to other things. Like there's a lot of, I'll go back through my like CD collection of the 80s and 90s, and I'll kind of put something in my ear that I'll listen to nonstop for about a week and just focus on the drums. And then I go in and start setting my tone for the drums of the track. And I obsess way too much about every individual snare hit or every individual kick drum and stuff like that, when I'm a guitar player. So I don't, that's the crazy stuff. So I'm with you, man.
Yeah, but that's like I said, I had to quantize. I went every beat of that by hand. I went in there and I moved it on the on the piano roll. I had it set up just to make sure. And like you said, but I listened to only that album. I was just to your point, I was focused on that album. That's why I was trying to get that exact sound. I would listen to it over and over, just a different song here and there, just to try to match it up with that.
John, did you ever notice on the beginning of "So This Is Love" in the first few seconds of when he's hitting the snare, it sounds like they're turning faders.
I don't know if that was. I don't know if that was.
It's like, why does it turn down right there? Did they do that on purpose?
I don't know if it's a mistake or if it's a gate or something that went on the snare, because it does about we're all used to it. We know it's
sound on one of the beats.
It just disappears.
Sounds like someone turned something down.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a limiter or something like that they put on there, because I noticed on 1984, if you listen to Jump, when it kicks in, right when it kicks in, Alex's kick drum is very loud. It goes like da 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 da.
Yeah.
But when he does that roll and he kicks in, you'll notice that by the second hit, the kick drum goes way down. It's like there's a gate on it or something that just or a limiter or a compressor or something.
Once he locks into the groove, they turn.
Yeah, but the drum gets very weak, the kick drum sound. So after the show's over, put Jump on, and you'll hear.
Okay, so when he first does the hits, it's loud, but then once he locks.
But then when he does that drum roll, when it kicks in, you'll hear the drum roll. And you'll hear the first hit is loud, and then all of a sudden the next kick drum hit is very low. And I know I read somewhere Don Landy had it bothers him about something with the limiting or something like that on that song. So, but I'm wondering if that's what it is on "So This Is Love" also.
So This Is Love, it's like that too, right?
Yeah, it's just dropped out, right? Yeah.
I can't unhear it now. I'm always I always think someone's turning it down. Why do they turn it down then?
I know, and we never got an explanation, right? We never got an explanation. Probably, because they recorded these things. I mean, that album they took a little longer, I guess, to record. Fair warning, but I listen to that stuff, and I'm like, some of these albums they did in 2 weeks. It's just like, how is this even possible? Yeah. That's why there's just genius, and they were just touched by the hand of God, because it's like, how could they do this? Is impossible to It's just like nobody can do this.
But I don't hear mistakes on those early ones. We're talking about 1984 and Fair Warning, where they were well along in the game and they were more scrutinizing over things, but they almost sound like production differences.
Well, I've heard it may be Don, but it may be Al's attack too.
It could be, but it does sound like almost like a fader what goes down. You know what I mean? Even more than Alex hitting it lightly.
But Neil, when you hear that snare, right?
Yep.
I've heard people say, "Oh, well, he's just hitting it softer." But it sounds like it's altered, doesn't it?
No, yeah, it does. Chances are most of the time when Al's in the studio, because we don't know how many takes he did for every drum track either, and they're matching takes and they're putting things together. So he's got to kind of play balls out every time he plays, unless it's a soft part of the song. But I don't think he plays any differently from song to song when he's playing a hard rock. I mean, in terms of muscle memory, you fall into a rhythm when you're playing drums and stuff like that. So the differences in sounds that you hear, those got to be production things. Those have to be things that, it's got to be. Al's not making a conscious difference to make on the same album to make his drums sound different from one song to the next.
Yeah.
At least not in the early years.
I would love for Don Landy to speak to somebody, just about, all the, because there's so many questions that,
Oh God, I know.
I want mine answered.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts every time I hear it.
Yeah.
I love the song. Don't get me wrong. I love it.
And that's a huge one.
About, like, who made the decision and who didn't catch that?
Yeah.
And why did they leave it in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought that was funny because there's some difference. Like when a record label sends a song to a radio station, they mix it differently for radio. So they put a whole lot of compression on it to make sure that the volume levels stay consistent. So you'll hear when a guitar solo kicks in, you'll hear the drums and bass kind of drop out a little bit, and when vocals come in, you'll hear, because if you're looking at it on a chart, it looks like one solid block across the board. Right. That's the radio mix of it. The studio mix should never sound that way when it comes out. So there's no reason to fade an instrument unless it's intentional.
Right. Or some kind of weird accident or something that they didn't even that they didn't even pick up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a weird one.
I wish he would just speak, do an interview with somebody. You know what I mean? Because there's so many questions like that, and that's a great one. Because when you were bringing that up, I knew exactly where you were going with that. Because
the minute I brought up "So This Is Love," you said, "I already know where."
I knew exactly what you were gonna say, because that always drove me crazy. It just doesn't make any sense, but.
Yeah. I'm hearing it in my head right now, and I'm like, why? Why did they do that?
Did you guys know that on 1984 on I'll Wait, when they recorded the drums, if you notice, the snare sounds the best pretty much out of any song. It just has that nice sound on I'll Wait, is because he recorded the drums without any cymbals.
Right, just the snare and toms, and then they went back and did cymbals.
Yep.
And then he made a mistake in there too. When the vocals come in, he hit the hi-hat instead of the crash. That roll.
Right. Oh, I don't know if I caught that.
Yeah. So when you listen to it, you're expecting him to hit like a crash right when Dave starts to sing, but he doesn't. He goes right to the hi-hat, and apparently it was a mistake that they screwed up. But afterwards, I think Eddie said he loved it. So he was like, "Oh, I loved it," because everybody's expecting it, and then it doesn't happen.
The minute Dave starts the vocal, right there, it's supposed to be a crash instead of a hi-hat.
Exactly. There should be like, normally you would think a drummer would do that roll and hit a crash right when he starts to sing, but he goes right to the hi-hat. It's like, psych, psych.
That's funny.
Right after that, right after
the last one.
Yes,
exactly.
Al mentioned that too, and Ed said, "Let's keep it."
Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about producers though, when they're recording like real jazzy drummers,
right,
for a rock band kind of thing. They'll do that trick where they'll take the cymbals away from them when they're recording the preliminary, the original tracks, just to get them out of, because instead of the like a lot of that, they'll take that away from them and then add it in as needed.
Yeah,
so
and then on top of that, for the bleed, I guess, because the hi-hat's going to bleed onto the snare mic, so you want that clean kind of sound,
So then he goes back in the studio, sits at the kit. There's only cymbals, and all he does is listen and do the hits when needed.
Yeah, exactly. Hi-hats.
Seems unnatural.
Yeah, only on that one song, I think, on that album they did that. Only
look at it. It's no different than a guitar player doing overdubs, though.
Pretty much. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff, though, right?
Yeah, it is. It's cool. I've seen that trick done before, though. It's really weird.
Yeah, right. But and there was some guy that did a YouTube video on that. Some guy, a producer guy, and talked about he talked about like guys like Mutt Lange putting a gunshot in there. He would slow down. It would record a gunshot or record it, and he would slow it down, and he would use that one for a drum hit to get people's attention. Like when it's right before it's coming into the chorus, they would add that that gunshot sound on the drum, so it would just be more powerful, like kind of thing like that. So, I mean, they do some crazy things, these guys, right?
Awesome.
Let's take care of a couple of matters of business before we turn the corner here. Let's recognize these cats here in the chat tonight. Thanks for being here. KXM Rock, Blacktooth Fox, Tim Thomas, Mike Neese.
Awesome.
Hey, Mike. Brendan B. Squared, Nelson Rodriguez. Hey, Nelson.
Brendan.
Let me see. Mr. Thomas Santiago, KXM Rock. Have I said that? I said that.
It's good to see you guys.
Quentin James himself.
Quentin.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in on a holiday. It's obviously we know that there are other things out there you could be doing, so we appreciate people paying attention to us.
There you go.
Yeah. Welcome everybody. All right, let's take care of a couple of matters while we are at it. Neil Daly right there. Let's find, where's my cards at? Here it is. Neil Daly's custom shop.
Nice.
Yeah, look at that.
He will make you anything that you want. His links are down below.
Yeah, check me out at Daly Custom Designs on Facebook or on Instagram. Check it out. There's plenty of photos. I've done a bunch of Frankies. I've done some of the other rare Kramer variations. I've done outside the Van Halen spectrum too. I've done some Billy Corgan strats from the Smashing Pumpkins by commission. So anything you want, send me pics and I'll rebuild it.
Nice.
Beautiful work, Neil. Beautiful, man.
Thank you guys. Thank
you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, this is always going to be doing the Frankie is always going to be my favorite.
You know, Neil, you made Tony happy with that guitar, and it speaks volumes. It really does. So,
yeah,
man. Kudos to you, brother.
Absolutely.
He's really happy.
A lot of work in that one.
Yeah, thank you guys again. And the one thing, real quick, just to continue my own self promo right here, I'm just going to add that I just want to add to people out there that there are replica builders that are spot on accurate, and there are tribute builders, and I fall somewhere in the middle. What I try to do is give you the most accurate looking playable guitar for an affordable price that doesn't break the bank. So that's what I'm trying to do. So that's where I fall on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Super cool, man.
Go check out Neil. And for all of you that have new ink on the body, ink the original. Essential Tattoo Care hydrate formulas with organic ingredients to hydrate and protect environment and reef safe. Fight the fade. Ink the original. Yeah. Yep.
Love that.
Yeah. And let me get one more card up here. Brendan B. Squared, which you see on my other show, Show Me Your Pick. He handcrafts custom cigar box guitars and is currently making a run of striped series.
That's awesome.
Van Halen inspired cigar box guitars.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
And he is due to take a nice shot of these things to have on this card, but his links are down below as well. Check him out. Yeah. Happy 4th, everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we are going to dive into our greatest Van Halen concert experiences individually here tonight. And I've got one or two. I've seen Van Halen a bunch of times, 42 times. And I've got one, but I've got a couple that I'm going to talk about. Yeah, and we're going to go around the horn. Let's start with you, Neil.
Yeah.
You've seen these guys a bunch of times. What is the best Van Halen show, the greatest experience? What's the top dog?
Oh man, those are all loaded questions, and I'm glad we're doing this around the horn style because I'll be able to jump in and talk about it because I've seen them more than once. I think to just get this party started right now, I'm just going to mention the first time I ever saw him live. I think that's always going to carry a special place right here. It was the 5150 tour. I was in junior high. I'd been playing the guitar for maybe 3 or 4 years. I was actually the 5150 tour is what made me join then my first band. I joined my first rock band in like 8th grade. But I actually printed out the set list just to confirm. It was April 24th, 1986. And this was at it was outside Chicago. I saw him at you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was the beginning of the tour because they ended up coming back and playing more Chicago later. But this was they played Rockford, Illinois, which was probably 20 minutes away from my house. So that was easier to get to than going downtown Chicago to see him at like Rosemont or Tinley Park or anything like that.
That place is smaller. That's a smaller
much smaller. Yeah, which is weird because I remember my dad took me to the show, and I remember even him being, because my dad was a musician and he had he took me to concerts all the time. A lot of them he dragged me kicking and screaming whether I wanted to go or not. But a lot of this particular show, I remember the thing was he was kind of surprised because he knew about the success of 1984. He knew how big Van Halen was. So for them to kind of begin the 5150 tour with Sammy and open in Rockford instead of Chicago, he was all for it because it was easier to get to, cheaper, smaller. To put it into perspective, the Metro Center in Chicago or in Rockford is kind of like a minor league hockey ice rink, I guess, if you can, like, that's about the size.
Less than 10,000. Whereas at that point in their career, they're playing 20,000 seaters for them. And
that's what I said. Now, I was probably too young to recognize the difference between I didn't notice.
That's good for you though.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was my introduction to seeing the band live. Oh my God, everything about it. And it's so funny because over the years, I think I've seen the Live Without a Net video so many times that kind of colors my memory of the show I went, because I'm pretty sure I saw him twice on this tour, and I'm pretty sure Eddie wore the pink pants and the white Reeboks and the whole. So it's kind of sometimes I have a hard time remembering if that's what I saw live or if that's just what I remember from the concert video. But I remembered they played a couple of songs at this show that they didn't do in the Live Without a Net. They played Jump. Sammy sang Jump at the end of at the end of the show, and it was oh God. I mean, yeah, I could keep going, but I'll save some information for some of the other shows as we move on. That was my first show, and that was kind of, it was like a life-altering experience, as cliche as it sounds, and I'm sure most people kind of have that same type of thing, but seeing in person the things that you've heard on the record and kind of thought, because I was a burgeoning guitar player, so I'm kind of saying, and my dad was a guitar player, so I would go to him with stuff and be like, hey, how does he get that sound? And my dad's like, honestly, I don't know. I don't know. So then you start to think, okay, these got to be studio tricks. Nobody can do that. And then you see him play live in a small ice rink sized venue that's like an auditorium. And I'm like, nope. Even my dad's kind of nudging me going, nope, he's doing that. That's really him. There's nobody else on stage playing the guitar. That's all Eddie. So that was it. And from that moment, that was when shortly after that show, before the next show I saw on the same tour, was when the deal was with my dad that he would buy me my first electric guitar, that if I started, officially got into a band. And so I said, okay. So I joined a band after that, and then went out. He took me to a Guitar Center downtown Chicago. There weren't that many around at the time. So we went to Guitar Center. I walked in the door, and I was like, show me your Kramers. And the guy, my dad's trying to tell me, get like a Fender Strat. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And, he's like, or don't you want a Gibson Les Paul and everything? And I mean, he was going to give me like the Epiphone model or the Squier model, because obviously I didn't know what I was doing yet. But I kept saying, nope, I need to play a Kramer. And my dad's talking to the guy, and he's like, okay, well, this is your decision. This is your summer money and stuff like that. So we ended up getting my first electric guitar that was actually bought was a Kramer Striker or something, just because it had a curved headstock. I mean, it had a rosewood fingerboard. Didn't look like his, but it was a Kramer, and that's all I cared about. And all of that started from seeing this particular show. And God, I'll never forget it. Incredible show.
It's so cool to hear. That's so cool to hear the impact.
The
first show had on you. What was the first song you heard
at that show?
Yeah,
I think they opened with "You Really Got Me." I think that was
excellent.
It was
excellent.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Live Without a Net set list stayed consistent. It was pretty consistent, but I think they opened with "You Really Got Me." Well, first, from that tour and a lot of tours, the lights are down. The guitar you hear, it was almost like a pre-record. It wasn't a pre-recorded thing, but Eddie starts soloing, and then you hear the cymbals, kind of like ride in, and lights going like this and everything like that, and you're just going, oh my God. And then Sammy yells something like, hello, Rockford, or whatever it was that he yelled. But it was just, then all of a sudden they come out on the stage, and again, this place wasn't that big. For as big as they were at that moment, this wasn't a big venue. And they come out, and then like drum stop, guitar stop, lights go down, and then all of a sudden it's dun-na-na-na-na, dun, and I'm just going, because I knew that song. It was like one of those things too. The one thing I was kind of worried about at that point, because I was new to the Van Halen club. I mean, I had 1984 and Van Halen 1, but I wasn't a fan yet. I wasn't a diehard fan yet. So there was kind of a little bit of, my dad kind of prepped me and said, you might not know all these songs, they're probably going to play stuff you don't know, but they played everything I knew. So it was everything I knew. Yeah. It was so good.
That is so cool.
Awesome.
Nice.
CK, what were you asking?
Was that the first show you ever saw? I mean, I know Van Halen, but I mean, first
concert. No. That wasn't the first show I ever saw. That was probably the first show of my choosing, I think, maybe, that I got to. I know I'd seen. Being my dad was a musician, because here's a little tidbit for you people out there. I was named after Neil Young. So that's how I got my name. My dad was a huge Neil Young fan. So he dragged me out to concerts all the time and for a long time. And I saw, I would see the Springsteens and the Tom Petty's and the Neil Young, obviously. Yes. Saw these guys a lot. Saw Jackson Brown. Saw like a lot of them when they would come around. But it would take, it had to take something special for me, because I couldn't drive and I didn't have any money. So even if we could get like other friends to go with, my dad kind of had to go along to chaperone. So it would take a lot for my dad to be like, all right, I'll go buy the ticket and sit with you and go to this kind of show. So it took a lot. So this was one of the ones I think he was curious. And I think he was kind of like, this will be fun. And so it was, and also in a weird way, it was a father-son moment too. So
very cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good way to start it. That's a good number one. I mean,
that's just good parenting on your parents' side, man.
Here's that. So here's the last thing I remember about this show. Speaking of the parenting thing, you'll get a kick out of this. So it was a Thursday night, and I remember my mom was kind of against it, being like, you guys are going to be out late and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. My dad was like, nah, he'll be home. He'll be in bed by 11 and blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. My mom was an operating room nurse. And she was called in she had a beeper and was called in for surgeries left and right and all this stuff. Lots of times on the weekends, Thursday to Sunday, there was always some reason that she had to go to the hospital in the middle of the night. So she was gone that night. She ended up beeped in. I have no memory of what time we got home, but I remember that, late driving back from Rockford, my dad saying like, hey, if you need to call in sick tomorrow, I'll cover for you. And I remember saying, absolutely not. I am going to school and I'm telling everybody about what I just did. I was like, I went out to a concert on a school night. I was like, hell yeah, I'm telling people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. That's
nice. Cool. That's exciting.
What's that?
Did you buy a shirt?
I'm sure I did. I don't know if it was this show or the other one on the tour later in the summer, but I think I bought merchandise at every show I went to.
Oh yeah.
And you're completely deaf the next morning in school, right?
yeah. Especially in a smaller place.
That's the best
place. I mean, oh my God, that place was loud.
Yeah. I bet, right?
Yeah. That's a good story right there. That awesome. Yeah. Ed at his best. You saw Eddie first. I think My opinion. 1986, Eddie was pretty much at his best playing wise.
Yeah.
Top of his
game.
Yeah,
I even kind of think I have this weird sense memory, and this may again, I think I remember this correctly, but I think by the time they got to the guitar solo, like Eddie's 15-minute guitar solo, I think at that point my dad kind of threw up his hands and he's like, "I'm done teaching you guitar." It's like, but like I'm not even I got nothing to offer you.
Excellent. That's great.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Very good story.
Nice. All right, John. So John, you've seen Van Halen how many times?
I'm pretty sure 35.
Whoa.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
A lot of it's a blur. Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Starting with what tour, John?
I'm sorry?
What tour did you start with?
Well, I'll do the same thing like Neil did. The first time I saw them, I was 14 years old. It was my first concert ever. So it was at Diver Down on October 9th, 1982 at the Syracuse Carrier Dome in Syracuse, New York.
Nice.
I live in New York, but I live right outside. I'm in the suburbs in Westchester, right outside the city. 45 minutes from like the World Trade Center. That's, door to door. I used to work down there. So it's my friend and I, two of us, took a Greyhound bus because my sister went to college up there. And she said, "You want to go see Van Halen?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." You know what I mean? I think the tickets were like $10 back in 1980. I was like, wow, that was a lot of money back then. So we took the bus up there, and it was just, I'll tell you what, I was almost scared because it was, the Carrier Dome is on the campus of Syracuse University. So there's all these drunken college kids, and it holds about 32,000 people. So it was a big show, and it's indoor, obviously. But I remember beer bottles flying in there, and I remember it was the night before Dave's birthday, and they were fueled up. The band was just like, and the thunder, the sound of them, it was just like, you had to catch your breath almost. That's literally, I was just like, what is the, I remember, Romeo Delight was the first song.
Yes, it was. Awesome. I was going to ask you that.
They came out with that. And for the next 2 hours, it was just like, boom, boom. You remember little things. I remember, there's a bootleg video out from, I think, Maryland, 82.
Yeah.
The closed circuit TV, that one. So it was 2 nights before that show that I saw.
Oh, okay.
And I thought Eddie would wear the cool overalls, but he didn't. That night when we saw him, he wore the candy cane, the socks, but he wore the candy cane pants too. So the pants were candy cane and the socks. I remember that, and he had knee pads on and
Raggedy Ann look.
Oh, in 82, exactly. Really? Wow.
Yeah. And I never really, inside of Diver Down, there's a picture, I guess, from the Fair Warning tour of those pants, but I'd never ever seen them anywhere else. But he wore them that night. I remember that. And I just remember it was just out of control. I was hooked after that, seeing all these people going crazy, these kids, and just the volume. And it was like sensory overload. So that one definitely stands out because that lit the fuse. You know what I mean? So I can blame that night, for my obsession, from there. But
awesome.
I don't know if it was the best show I ever saw of theirs, but it was definitely, made a huge impact on me, that one right away.
I agree with you. I think what Tony was going to say. I've probably seen better shows, but I got to start with the first one. That's the one that left such an indelible mark on me.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll go back around on the horn.
Cool.
And this will be our honorable mention or our kickoff show, and we'll go back and we'll get to the meat on the next round.
All right.
Okay.
Nice. 82.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm old. Says, back then, I was like, yeah. Wow. How old are you?
I know. I'm not old.
Listen,
I'm just
if you
older.
can say you saw Van Halen in '82, who gives a shit how old you are?
Yeah.
You were there.
That's it, man. You saw it. That's the dilly right
It's
there.
true. And somebody pointed out to me that other than Mark Stone, I've seen every incarnation of Van Halen. I saw when Michael Anthony and Dave together, and Alex and Eddie, the Sammy years, the Gary Sharon years, and then the Wolfgang years. So everything but Mark Stone, I got to see them at least once. You know.
Yeah.
That is so. That's actually really rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. Heck yeah. You got it. All right, Charles.
All right, guys. So,
brother.
I was on a show the other night. I was talking about times I'd seen Van Halen, and I forgot I saw Halen in 1980. The first time I saw Van Halen was the LA Sports Arena.
Oh, God, yeah.
Well, I guess that dates me. I'm a little older than you are. But, anyway, it's the LA Sports Arena, 1980. It's the Women and Children First Tour. They called it the Party Till You Die Tour, actually, is what the tour was named.
Awesome.
Running with the Devil was the first Van Halen song I ever heard. The concert, every time I saw Van Halen, they got better. Every time I saw them, they were a little bit better than the last time. Until the show I saw in 1983. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But they started out with Running with the Devil. They played Loss of Control, Take Your Whiskey Home.
Oh, man.
Dance the Night Away, Light Up the Sky. First time I heard Light Up the Sky. Jesus, man.
That had to be insane live.
Gee, yeah, right.
That was a moment.
Yeah. Well, Charles, we've talked about that particular song, just that song alone. So, oh, man, seeing that live had to be
one of my favorite songs, you know.
Yeah.
And I saw them in 1981 for the Fair Warning tour. I saw that. Now, they played two shows. I was working for West Security at the time. I was working for West in 81, but I went to the show. That was just with friends. And they played 2 nights, but I didn't go to the second night because I was working. So, I could only go to one. And when they finished that tour in 1980, it was just before Christmas time. And I had been at the Whiskey for about 3.5 months, maybe 4 months. And that Dave had come off the tour. And he started haunting that place for about 3 months. He was there before they were getting ready to go out on the next year's tour. And so I was fortunate to get to actually see him for several times. He would come into the clubs. And I just, they're my favorite band. And it's my favorite era. Always will be till the day I die. But 1981 comes along. And so it's the Fair Warning. They're playing both the Long Beach Sports Arena. I'm sorry, the Los Angeles Sports Arena and the Inglewood Forum. They split up. They played 2 shows, one each night at each place. I worked for West on the first show, and I went as a guest and took my girlfriend and a couple of friends for the second one. So that was a wonderful show. That was just a great, great, great show. And Jamie's Crying. Beautiful version of Jamie's Crying. Dave actually did a rap before they played So This Is Love. Okay, so he's doing a rap, a verbal, just doing what Dave does. And
scatting around.
Dave was reckless in those days. People talk about the Yes Festival and him being this and that. I'll tell you a little bit about it because I was there, but he was rough and reckless the whole time. Back in the 80 and 81, he was a partier, and he made no bones about it. He set a tone at the shows, and just unbelievable showman. Just an unbelievable showman for an unbelievable band.
Yeah.
But 1982 comes along. Okay, now in 82 they play the LA Forum in Inglewood. They open with Romeo Delight.
Oh God.
Benchmark right there. That moment I was blown away. They played Unchained. Whole show was fabulous. And if you'd asked me at that moment what my greatest Van Halen show was, I would say hands down, that's my greatest show. Wonderful show. Then in 83, I worked the US Festival. Okay. And I said this the other night. The US Festival was the single greatest Van Halen show I've ever seen. Spot on, the best show ever. With one exception. Dave was wasted. Okay? And so it took away from the perfect show and made it the most unique Van Halen show I've ever seen. Best show they ever played as musicians. Alex, Dave, and Eddie. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dave, even though he was completely wasted, I've never been so entertained. I'm still telling stories about it 38 years later. Okay?
That's
Can't
awesome.
beat it. So as far as my favorite show, no. But the best show I've ever seen him play, yeah, period.
Gotcha.
1984 rolls around. Okay? Same thing again. I'm at that time, I'm still working for West. It was one of the last shows that I ever worked for West Security, Inglewood Forum, 2 shows. And one show I worked. The second show I went with my girlfriend, who ended up getting married to, my fiance. And that was the best Van Halen show I'd ever seen. Period. Got to sit down. There was no drama. Spotless show. Just spot on show from the boys. And David Lee Roth, he didn't miss a word. He didn't miss a word. And I think that show for the Roth era was, they just all were at their absolute pinnacle of awesomeness. It was the most beautiful show I'd ever seen to date.
That's awesome. Charles, I listened to the last show you guys did last week when you talked specifically about the US Festival, and I got to tell you, some of your stories are fascinating. So to viewers out there, any viewers out there that haven't watched last week's show, please go back and watch. Because Charles being there, the stuff you said, especially the part where you said that just the way Michael and Alex and Eddie covered for Dave as much as they could, the way they tried to do that, you just had some fascinating stories in that.
He was wasted all day.
Yeah.
There was no way when he was wasted at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then he was wasted at 2 in the afternoon, and then he was wasted at 4 o'clock. He wasn't going to sober up.
No.
So
God, no.
The wreck was coming. It was either going to be disaster or it was going to be something else. And that just goes to show you how professional and awesome those guys are.
Yep.
Unbelievable that they could not. That would have taken any other band that would have just knocked their legs out from under them. They'd have either done a horrible show or canceled the show.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, I agree.
No, these guys do a Van Halen. They come out and they just kick ass. Boom.
Yeah.
And then Dave took all the bad press for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
But it's still the best show I've ever seen him do. And had it just not been such a difficult situation there, that was just what took the thing down.
Yeah. I read the press for years and years about the show. And I having watched the show on tape as many times, I always thought, yeah, Dave's a little wasted, but he's always wasted.
He always is, and he's always,
the band was spot on that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. God.
They were a party band. That's their thing. They've always been that way, a party band, and Dave was the life of the party, and he made no bones about it. He didn't apologize. I gotta give him some credit for this. After all the stuff he took for the US Festival and all the stuff he did, we all know he showed his ass. He did. He never apologized for it. Never. And
Steve Wozniak knew what he was getting when he paid them that money. You know what you're getting.
Yes. And I give Dave, I've gone back and forth on it over the years, and my firm resolve on this thing is this. David Lee Roth stood his ground. He made no apologies for standing his ground, and history is what it is.
Yeah.
And that is Van Halen.
Yeah, lesser bands that would have killed their career probably.
Took them out.
Propelled them. They were bubbling at that point on being the biggest band in the United States, about the world. And actually that fueled the fire for that to explode.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I remember hearing an interview with Kevin Dugan, the Mike's bass tech, about that. About just like you were saying, how professional they were. And I guess something happened during Mike's bass solo. I don't know if his cable came unplugged or something.
Right.
Like that.
He went too far on the stage left side there.
Right. And I guess Dugan covered for him somehow off stage with some kind of bass synthesizer or something. And he said, Dugan said that footage of that exists somewhere. He goes, but I'd love to see that. But they managed to make it work apparently. So
get a load of this.
Awesome.
I never even knew that happened. It's been and now I've got a new little tidbit to go and look and find. So that's awesome.
Right. There's an interview with Dugan out there that he talks about that in particular. And he said it was pretty funny, the whole thing, but he goes, we made it work. Nobody, it was very seamless, but the cable came unplugged.
Excellent.
And again, like you guys have all said, the professionalism of that band, when you're known as a party band, I mean, it's so interesting that, a band, we think, for a while, we as fans have a tendency to glamorize the party lifestyle of these bands. It's funny that we're talking, what is it? Jim Morrison died 50 years ago today, something like that. We have a tendency to kind of glamorize the party lifestyle and not recognize that. Like we almost, to a certain extent, certain musicians become comics. They become like the dude at the party with the lampshade on his head running around kind of thing. And you forget about the fact that the band Van Halen could be a party band, but we're still the best musicians in the game at the time.
Right.
And we take that for granted. You have to recognize. And yes,
they had both.
It is. Yeah, they had both. And yes, of course, there's a period that we all know that Eddie kind of had. Eddie took a dip in talent and stuff. But it affected, and there's no way it couldn't. But like you guys have said, I've seen a lot of other bands when they start to dabble in the party lifestyle, when they let the fame become the monster, and that, they disappear in no time. It eats them alive. And this band, Charles, you just said it perfectly. Michael, Alex, and Eddie that night carried the load, and
they ran for a touchdown.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Over and over. And even the crowd, it was a trip because the crowd didn't care how wasted Dave was, because the crowd.
I'm sure they egged him on. They were egging him on.
He couldn't have picked a better concert to be that wasted.
Right.
He couldn't have. As I look back, because if he'd have tried that shit in '84 in the Forum, it would have been disastrous.
You could tell that the band was going to be on that night just in the grin on Ed's face and the first few taps of Romeo Delight.
Yes.
You knew it was going to be a good night.
Yes.
Well, also, the timing is everything too. Charles, you said it best. That absolutely that was the perfect venue and crowd for that type of performance. We saw a similar thing happen with Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses in the '90s, but when him turning in that performance becomes a riot. The crowd riot. It's like it was a different time. It was a completely different time.
That's right, man. That's right.
Awesome stories, dude.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Charles, I love your stories. You can tell them all night long.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate that.
All right, kid. What you got for?
I have to ask Neil a question. When you said the dip, you didn't say the year. Are you saying 04?
I'm trying to be polite. I'm trying to be polite as possible. The Bender years, I would call it that. Yeah, the what are we?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That one.
When Eddie noticeably was drunk on stage to the point where his performance suffered. That's what I'm saying. And those videos exist where, he was no longer able to perform at the same level while he was partying.
Yeah, I saw that tour, 04.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, here's the weird irony though. If you were to Eddie at 50% of his best is still probably better than so many other bands out there at their best. But we hold him to a certain level. You know, Eddie was the cream. What I saw Eddie Van Halen do live was light years beyond anything that even the best bands on MTV could possibly try in their best day. So when Eddie took a dip in it, when he started to kind of, for that short period of time, and he got himself back on track. All power to him for getting himself back on track by the end. But there was a noticeable dip in his talent on stage, and that was it's sad that it's noticeable to us because we've been so used to seeing, he was Eddie Van Halen was Michael Jordan for so many years, and then that brief period of time where the alcohol kind of got in the way. Alcohol and cancer and all these other things started to affect him, in the divorce and all that stuff. Then he was Michael Jordan on the Washington Wizards at the end of his career kind of thing. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. But I stand by the fact that Eddie Van Halen reclaimed his throne before he was done. And I applaud that. I applaud that.
Yeah. He really did, because if you look at 2015, it's just like, wow, you look at the whole timeline and then where they ended up at 2015. And he seemed to be happy, sober, stable, right? And and you could tell in his playing too. And I
yes,
a lot of people say, hey, well, the band had to work hard because Dave couldn't carry it anymore like he used to, so they had to be that much tighter as vocally. And if you notice, Eddie sang a lot more background vocals on the last tour. Had a half tongue removed and everything like that. He sang an awful lot on that tour, and he did more double duty. In the last few years of Hagar being in there, he didn't sing as much background vocals and things like that. But I guess he wanted to go out there and with Wolfgang and Alex and say, hey, this is our name is on this, and we're gonna make it sound how it's supposed to.
So, and I think you got to give, there's a lot of diehard purist Van Halen fans out there that wanted to see Michael Anthony come back and join the fold, and that there's a lot of people that have animosity towards Wolfgang, even though he was a 14-year-old kid at the time. It's like you can't be mad at him. But
if he hadn't got back involved and talk his dad and back into touring, we wouldn't have seen 3 more tours out of that band.
Right. That's the argument I make to everybody else. That is absolutely
3 tours.
Wolfgang is the sole reason Van Halen came back.
Wouldn't have happened.
Performed as well as they did. Towards
Yeah, I don't think Eddie had any interest in. I really don't think he had any interest really.
No, he didn't.
At all. I think it was without Wolfgang. Wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And to put the cherry on the sundae, so to speak, the sad truth, we'll never ever know the answer to this, but all signs indicate that, according to Wolfgang, that had Eddie survived another year or 2 longer, we would have seen the Kitchen Sink tour. And we would have seen Michael Anthony, Wolfgang was instrumental in trying to put that back together because he wanted Wolfgang Mammoth to open for them. That was the one thing he wanted to do. So for people throwing shade at Wolfgang and saying that, he's responsible for Michael Anthony getting the raw deal, that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Exactly right, brother.
His mom even said he gave us fans that last album and the last 3 tours.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love Michael Anthony, but
I do too.
But you know what? They had things to work out, obviously, between him and Eddie anyway. And, I don't open up a can of worms or anything like that because I love Michael Anthony, but Mike really didn't seem to have reached out, towards the end too. Listen, a lot of people knew that Eddie had terminal cancer. Obviously, Sammy knew him, was on the horn with Eddie, talking to him. And I'm sure he said to Mike, hey, Mike, he's got terminal cancer. Maybe you guys should try to patch up. But I don't think he, I don't know why or whatever he reached, but apparently he didn't reach out. You would think he would. So I don't know if there was any other kind of bad blood there. So there's more to that whole story.
There's more than we'll ever know. Totally right. You're absolutely right.
Ever know. There could have.
Yeah, we'll never know.
Yeah, there's a lot, I think, more that we'll never know. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. But Wolf did give us those last years of Van Halen. So hats off. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Analog Kid. What you got
yeah,
for
we
us?
haven't gotten to your show
Well, I
yet.
asked one question to Neil, and that just brought us on a whole
Oh, good, brother.
Well, I mean, it segues into mine because the one I'm going to pick is going to be an oddball one that you guys probably might not agree with, but if you see it from my perspective, maybe you'll play ball.
Okay.
All right. So when I'm a kid, I hear from my cousin on a bootleg cassette, a Searchron Radio Shack cassette. I hear Eruption, You Really Got Me, Ain't Talking About Love, taped off the radio. Back then, we used to tape stuff off the radio.
Yeah, I did
before
too.
we had albums or could afford them or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the first time I ever hear Van Halen. It's late 70s. I need to get that record. So I have them all. Fair warning, when it comes out, is by far my favorite. I love it. But I'm not old enough to see a concert yet. First concert I ever see, I'm 14 years old. I see Rush in 82. Same as John, 82. So I missed somehow Rush came at the end of the year. So Van Halen must have come before that. Didn't see him. Now I want to see Van Halen. 1984 comes out. They do 3 area shows. I want to see them. All the shows instantly sell out. Back then, I didn't know the trick of if it's sold out, you just go to the show. I didn't have a car. I don't have the mercy of my parents. I don't get to see them on that tour. But my friend does, and he's not even a fan. So that really chaps my ass. I'm at lunch the next day, and he's like, I saw Van Halen 1984 last night. And he doesn't even like music. He's like a jock. You know what I mean? His father was a fireman. And in Boston, if you have connections to the fire department, you can get snuck into, like, the Boston Garden. Apparently.
Wow. Interesting.
So he got snuck in, saw the show. This is before Prince. This is March of 84. This is before Prince hit. So right now, the biggest thing in the world is Michael Jackson and Van Halen. I don't give a shit about Michael Jackson. I'm a rock guy. So I'm at lunch, and he's telling me he saw Van Halen last night, and he tells me this line. He goes, a girl stuck out her tongue at David Lee Roth, and he looked at her, and he said, don't stick your tongue out at me, honey, unless you intend to use it. And I'm like, my mind's blown. I'm like, I can't believe this is actually happening, and I'm hearing it.
Excellent.
And I'm not there. Really burns me up.
Wow.
2 years later or whatever, they get out with
Man, I've never heard that.
I see the 5150 concert. I see the OU 812. I see the Fuck Tour. I see Balance. I don't want to talk about any of those. Not interested. This is what I want to talk about. 2007, because of Wolfgang. It ties into our last thing.
Yep.
David Lee Roth's back in the band. Okay, so now I'm getting my just desserts from what I didn't get in high school.
Excellent.
I see that show that night. Was it as good? Fuck no. Of course not. You can't go back in time. But for that moment, for those 2 hours, my Van Halen was on.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Redemption is mine.
Dude.
I'm in my 30s at the time. These 2 guys have the balls. They had to be in their 50s. Look it up exactly. I don't know. But they had to be in their 50s. Neither one of them have their shirts on. The entire concert.
Yeah.
And it's 2007. What band, what reunion band, and we've seen them all, Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, every single band from our generation has reunited and done their reunion tour.
Legacy acts, yeah.
They've all done it. Not one band had the balls in their 50s to go out on stage with no shirts on like it was
Mike Tyson.
30 years ago.
Not even after you work up a sweat, just show up like that.
Dude,
Right. They entered the stage that way, and they stayed on stage the entire that night. Besides the music, which was mind-blowing, because the last time I saw Eddie in that building was 2004 with Sammy Hagar. We don't want to talk about that. I remember walking out with my friends saying, I don't believe I've ever seen a professional band more sloppy than that. I mean, they're always sloppy. They're not exactly the tightest band. Slop with Van Halen's part of the fun.
It's a good slop.
It's part of the thing.
They're very improvisational band.
Right.
Yeah,
That's part of their sound, even on record. That's cool.
Yep.
But I remember walking out that night going, that was rough. That was a rough show. But now I'm in the same building 3 years later, and Eddie Van Halen's on stage with David Lee Roth, and the whole game has changed. It's a completely different animal up there. And the set list, I have it in front of me, but it's on another screen, and I'm not really sure how to coordinate that and read that at the same time. But it was a tribute to their first record. That tour was primarily based, all the merchandising was around the first record logo. Yeah. And they played almost the entire album. I think there's only like 2 songs they didn't play from that record.
Yeah.
And they were great. And I felt like the next day when I was at work, even though I had paid probably $175 for a ticket, and I had never paid that much for a ticket in my life. And I'm a Rush fan, and they charge a shitload of money for their seats. I was like, it was still worth it, because even though I never got to see the 1984 tour, I never got to see it. And I never will. I have to live vicariously through people like T-Cake, who saw not only Fair Warning, but 1984. But hopefully you catch my vibe. It was still really good. It was Van Halen, and David Lee Roth was the frontman. Was he David Lee Roth of 1984? Of course he wasn't, but he was still David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why I love everything that you just said.
Now, are you mad at me? I feel like
no. Listen. I'm actually I'm gonna steal from you.
If I speak my mind, I get crucified.
Oh God, no, man. We're all fans. You can say whatever you want. Listen. Here's what I love the most about your story. I used to have this, I told you this in a previous show. I used to have this analogy when somebody was like, describe Van Halen. I was like, it's every Van Halen song sounds like a dog wearing sunglasses in a Camaro. Like that's like the kind of party vibe that you just get, right? I think I'm going to have to amend my story now, because I love the fact that you just said, what other band in their 50s would have the balls to come out with their shirts off? And I kind of agree with that. That's so Van Halen. I mean, I don't even give a shit if they were physically in shape or not. Who gives a crap?
They were.
But they were. But that's not even the point. The point is, like you said, it's the attitude. Yeah. The original band coming back together, taking the reclaiming their throne, taking their shirts off, and just ripping through these old 70s rock tunes. That's awesome.
The whole set. I was in my 30s. I don't know exactly. I'm not going to figure it out. But I was in my 30s, and I'm like, I wouldn't dare take my shirt off now.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, man. And my greatest regret is musical regret is that when when they first got back together with Roth. And they were doing warm-up shows at the Whiskey. Charles, you were probably gone from LA at this point, but they were doing some warm-up shows at the Whiskey before they went on tour. But this is before A Different Kind of Truth. This is before the whole thing. My greatest regret was I had an in that could have got me a ticket to that show.
Ooh.
But it was money. It was money. It was money. It was something like it would have cost like $1,000. Looking back now that Eddie's passed and everything, to see the at the Whiskey. I mean, the Whiskey holds maybe 1,000 people. On a good night. It's got about.
Dude, it doesn't even hold half that many.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm saying.
It's like troubadour size. Is 327 to 350 people.
Okay. There you go. There you go.
I've seen it with 500 people in it.
Yeah. So my point is, now looking back now, that's money I would have spent, and I kicked myself because that I would have, to see them in that type of venue, that small show, getting together with the energy you just described, getting Roth back in the fold. Yeah, he wasn't 70s Roth. He was more like Vegas Roth at that point. But
yeah.
Man,
I will take Dave in a wheelchair, drooling,
right,
inaudible, not even able to pronounce every word. I will still take Dave.
Yeah. So, props to that show, man. Good for you.
Love him.
Well, and the thing was, like you just said, regrets, and if I could take it back, if I knew what I knew now, I would have had my father drive me to the Providence Civic Center in 1984, and I would have scored a ticket, because I just didn't really – I had only seen like maybe 3 or 4 concerts up to that point. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't totally schooled on how it's done. Now I'm a friggin' old expert in it. But I toured seeing Rush all around the country without ever once having a ticket. The ticket was the last thing I was considering.
Yeah. No, I think that's so funny that you brought up that. Yeah, I used to do that all the time too. I would go to out of town shows. I would drive 2 hours out of town to go to a show that I didn't have tickets to and still get in. That's what you did back in the day. So
not got in.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like I said, I've been blessed and lucky, maybe blessed, maybe lucky, who knows? But there's just about no show that I've ever missed that I really wanted to see, except now looking back, it's that one. That's the one that's always going to hang over my head like a noose around my neck that I could have saw the reunion at the Whiskey. And
mine was the 1984 tour, so I had to pretend in 2007.
Good for you, though.
Jukebox Hero is just a song; it's not reality. You can get in. Man. Yeah, you'll get it. Never. I've done that many times, and never been turned away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent, guys. Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess it's on me. So Van Halen, I'm going to save my number one for our next go around the horn, but
good deal.
I started Van Halen. I was a kid with a cool older brother. Went to see Kiss Rock and Roll Over Tour 1976 in Raleigh.
Man.
Whoa.
Boston's coming. And this is an outdoor show. Carter Stadium, Boston, Poco, Van Halen, Outlaws. And Van Halen, I had heard Dance the Night Away. Going to see Van Halen as an opener, got the record, blown away, just blown away. Eddie and Dave, huge impact. When I saw Eddie, and I was a very young beginner guitar player at the time, when I saw him play, everything kind of changed. All the music kind of morphed,
Yep.
So went back a couple of times in 80, watched the Invasion. But by 1980, living here in North Carolina, there's so many venues close to me, Greensboro, Charlotte, Raleigh, Roanoke, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, Hampton, Virginia. It didn't matter if it was the next night or a couple of nights later. It's Van Halen, we're going.
Yep.
So there were tours where I would see them multiple times in a week, and then there were tours where they came back around later in the tour. A couple of shows really stand out with me. They began a lot of tours here in North Carolina. The 04 tour, Greensboro, opening night. 07, opening night, Charlotte. And, that night was a trip. Dave hadn't been in the band for many, many years. And there's this 16-year-old Wolfgang kid up here. And we purposely I got right at Wolfgang's microphone down in the pit because, I want to see this. So, but other tours, 82, it's like a couple of shows in, and they're in North Carolina. 84, a couple of shows in, and they're in North Carolina. So a lot of the shows they began a bunch of tours here in North Carolina. Why that is, I don't know.
That is weird.
Not complaining though.
No, of course not.
Not complaining. So, but in those days, and John, you'll attest to this, you had assigned seats. But if or me and my friends at rock shows, especially Van Halen shows, when the opening act's playing, you sit in your seat, you watch the show, you get a drink, buy a t-shirt, whatever. But when Van Halen is about to come on,
and the lights go down.
you position yourself along those left or right aisles. Of course, it's the right aisle on Eddie's side.
Yep.
You position yourself, and when those house lights go, there you go. You are gone. And it's just like a big movement. It's like,
Yeah.
and there you are, and there you stay.
That's it.
So one show that really stands out is Greensboro 81, and on YouTube and bootlegs, probably the best bootleg of that whole tour is Greensboro.
Yeah.
August of 81. And I was right up against the barricade where the ego stage is out, down in the crease, not right on Ed's mic, but down in the crease. And you all know I collect. The first guitar pick I ever get at a show is at Van Halen in 1981.
Heck yes.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
What are you keeping that in? What are you saving that in?
It's like a coin style capsule.
Oh yeah, okay. That's awesome. Oh, that's nice.
That's awesome.
But and I've gotten lots of guitar picks off Ed and Mike and Sam in the years, and Wolf. But the thing about this was Ed chunked me this thing, and I'm 5 feet away maybe, and I caught it, and I looked at it, and I looked at its logo, and I looked up at Ed, and he's looking at me, grinning, looking at this guitar pick, and I was like,
God, that's awesome.
I'm done. I'm done.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
The only other runner-up I'll say, as far as Van Halen, of all of them, and they're all great. I mean, you know, but we've talked about this too on shows in the past, is the 88 Monsters tour, where DC's the nearest venue to me on that big stadium tour. Going up there and watching that, you know, I'd go see Van Halen and Greensboro, Charlotte, and Hampton. They come back around and play Raleigh, Richmond, and whatever. But going up there in '88 and watching that show in June of '88, I was so glad I made that trip.
Mhm.
You know,
That's
I mean, you know, yeah, so glad I made that trip. But my number one show of all time has a story with it. Yeah, and we'll get to that
Okay.
In a bit. Yeah. Yeah. All right,
Awesome.
Neil. So,
well, wait, real quick. I haven't been paying attention to the chat room, and I should. But before we go around another round? Are people talking about their favorites? Are there people joining us? Saying
what is your number one show in the chat, guys?
So here's while we're letting some of the listeners, and again, we appreciate everybody tuning in right now. We know it's the 4th of July. Thank you guys for still watching us late at night. While we're waiting for you guys to give us some feedback of your own, let me point out really quick before I get to my number one. I do want to say, and this is really interesting. So I talked about my first round. I mentioned that I went to see the early 5150 tour, and it was in Rockford. It was at a small place. Well, later that summer, when the band got bigger and their booking manager started putting them in stadiums and whatnot, they came around to Alpine Valley, which is a huge yeah, you're familiar?
I've seen, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, it's gorgeous.
One of my
It's
favorites.
gorgeous. Yeah, for a while, that was the biggest. That was for a long, long time the biggest outdoor Chicago area venue, even though it's technically Wisconsin. That was the biggest outdoor summer venue for a long time until Chicago got Tinley Park, that got the World Theater, and yeah. But so that later that same year, it was same tour. Not much had changed. However, I distinctly recall for their encore set in between Why Can't This Be Love and Rock and Roll from Zeppelin, they broke out into an instrumental jam that I thought was really, really cool. Now, at this point, I'd been playing the guitar. I'd been really influenced by the band. I wanted to sound like them and be like them and everything. There was an instrumental jam that they broke into that I tried to the best of my ability to remember in my head when I got home so I could start playing it on the guitar because it wasn't on an album. Didn't know what it was. Years later, and it wasn't in preparation of this show, but years later, I think I discovered the website setlistfm.com. I don't know if you got you guys know that. Yeah. So I tracked it. I went back to the show that I was at because I was like, oh, I wonder if they named it or something like that. Check this out. According to setlist.com, May 23rd, 1986, at Alpine Valley in Wisconsin, the encore song that was an instrumental when I saw it was a precursor to Black and Blue.
Wow.
Oh.
So I think that is awesome. It was.
I've never heard that before, dude.
Yeah. I thought that was fucking cool, man. I thought that was just awesome. So
yeah, I love stuff like that.
And thank God for that website too, because I remember going home having like dun, 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 like and trying to like remember it on the drive home so I could play it on the guitar and be like, because at that point I was starting to be like, oh, I wanted to be like, I was just starting to come into discovering B-sides and like non-album cuts, and that made you part of the club. You know, if you knew something that wasn't on the album, oh, you were in. You know what I mean? So
like Girl Gone Bad at the US Festival.
Exactly.
Right.
If you knew a live cut before it made an album, oh, you were yeah. Okay, so all right, so now to my number one show. Now this was interesting because the set list hadn't changed a whole lot, and I'm not gonna make the audience sit around in suspense or anything. It was the OU 812 tour. Now, what I want to point out is, interestingly enough, because I didn't like the OU812 album nearly as much as 5150. I thought not nearly as much, and I didn't. The band, nothing, no fault of the band. They didn't drop off anything, but I thought they were Des Moines, Iowa. Yeah. Unfortunately, okay. So let me preface this, since it's good. Thanks, Mike, for throwing that out there. Van Halen came around with the Monsters of Rock tour in '88 all summer long, and I unfortunately could not make it to any of the shows. At this point, I was starting to work in summer high school jobs that were out in cornfields in northern Illinois, and you worked from like 4 a.m. in the morning to 6 o'clock at night for like $3.35, I think was minimum wage. That's what I think I made. But it was just like your summers were gone, and I had to, because it was like my later years in high school. That was the only. So Monsters of Rock came and went, broke my heart, couldn't make it. Nothing I could do about it, because I was still. I don't even know if I was old enough to drive yet. But Van Halen then headlines their own tour later the same year. So this is now November, October, November of the same year. And now I finally had the chance to go. But of course, I played sports in high school, so it was during football season. So luckily they came to, and I wrote this down, they came to Peoria, Illinois on a Saturday in November. Peoria's southern Illinois. It's about 2.5 hours away. But close enough where I wasn't going to miss this one. It was on a Saturday, so I was able to make it. So I was able to go down with a couple of friends. A friend of mine had a driver's license, could drive, and we could go see the show. And I bought the ticket, so I was like on my own. So, we had talked before. My dad didn't take me to the show. I was a high school kid going to see my first concert without a parent, kind of thing. Well, not my first one, but anyway, you get the point. So I go down there, and I wasn't as excited because I'd seen 5150 tour twice, and I loved that album. OU812, I didn't like the album as much, so I was kind of less enthusiastic about this live show. But first of all, they played almost the entire 5150 album during the show, because now they were doing the show expanded because Sammy he had 2 albums worth of material to play from. So they played most of OU812 and most of 5150 still. So it was a longer show, probably 25 songs, something like that. But what I remember about them, and maybe it was because I was a better musician now, I was a better guitar player, so I watched bands differently than I did when I was younger. But they were really tight during this tour. They were really on point, and they had gelled now with Sammy, because now they had 3 tours underneath their belts with him. 2 albums, a couple of, they just seemed like now they had fallen into a groove. They'd gotten each other they'd gotten their rhythms live on stage. Mm-hmm. So
what date is that again, Neil?
This is now November 7th, 1988, Saturday, okay. November 7th.
All right.
And it's Peoria Civic Center.
Yeah.
And I remember some shocking surprises during this show. I remember they played Running with the Devil, which I was like a Sammy saying Running with the Devil. I was like, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this. And I remember the songs like Summer Nights and 5150 from the previous album sounded better on this tour. And I thought they were lights out on 5150. I thought they knocked it out of the park. I thought that they just gelled and they sounded better. And Eddie was playing in 5150. Now that I was a guitar player, I remember 5150 was playing in standard tuning instead of half a step down. So it challenged Sammy lyrically a little bit, or vocally, to get up to those high notes. There you go. Nice. Very nice.
I don't have Novembers. I mailed to Johnny Bean because that was his first Van Halen show ever. This is the September, October.
Nice. Well, but anyway, so I just remember the band sounding better. Like on the songs that I loved from the previous tour, I thought they were even better on this tour, which surprised me. And they were most of the songs off 5150. But Sammy had a couple of solo songs on this tour now. I remember, the Eagles Fly. Yeah, it was just beautiful. It was a longer show. It was better. I loved it. I was more of an adult now without my parent with me. So I was kind of like, you know, even though I couldn't drive yet, I still felt a little bit cooler because we were drinking, you know, alcohol in McDonald's cups on the way to the show and all that other crap, which I don't advocate, by the way, for kids out there paying attention. Don't drink and drive.
Excellent.
Finally, the capper to this, and I had to, again, double check with setlistfm.com to double check this, and I was correct. They did 3 encores that night. They did You Really Got Me, and they ended with Rock and Roll Again. But the second to last song of the night was a cover of My Generation by The Who. And I remember seeing that and just being blown away. I was like, oh my God. Now, in hindsight, it wasn't the greatest cover of the song ever. But I was, you know, being excited as a kid going away. And again, I remember, like, you know, calling my dad from a payphone that night, you know, after the show, because, you know, I had to say, yeah, we'll be home in 2 hours or whatever, 3 hours. But I remember calling, being like, they played that Who song, My Generation. And it was just, there were so many elements about this. I thought the band was tighter. I didn't like the album as much, but the tour was better. I thought that they just that was my favorite show.
Nice.
I remember that tour too. I remember Eddie played a Stratocaster on Finish What You Started on that. So I don't know if you had it when you saw them, but he played it.
You know, he might have. I really don't.
I think he played the one he used on the album. It was like a '57 Tobacco Sunburst Strato.
Probably. Yeah, I don't remember, because I remember at this point now the stadium was much bigger,
right?
And I remember, you know, not having good seats, and they didn't have like giant monitors,
right,
like today. You know, no matter where you sit, you have a movie screen in front of you. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't remember. I remember he didn't play any red and white striped guitar for that song. So that was. Yeah,
it's probably that one. I remember I saw them at Madison Square Garden on that tour, and I agree with you. It was real good. And I remember a guy climbed out of the audience, jumped up on the stage. I forget what song it was in, but I remember he came behind Eddie or something in his back, and he started tapping on Eddie's Kramer 5150 guitar. And Eddie just kind of threw his hands up in the air like this and let the guy tap
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
we were the Bousters.
Yeah, we were like, who is this guy doing this? And, you know, and then they got him off there. It was like, yeah, they brought him backstage, whatever like that. I guess they weren't mad at him. And it turns out that a year or two later, the guy became famous on MTV. He was in that band Trickster, Steve Brown.
That's Steve Brown.
That's who it was.
Oh my God,
no
that's awesome.
Yeah.
At that point, he was unknown, and like a year later or something, Trickster hit it with that, you know, on MTV.
He's awesome. Steve Brown
Yeah.
is actually the fella who filled in for Viv Campbell in Def Leppard at Wembley.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, but that was him that climbed.
That's awesome.
And I think it's on YouTube. If you look for that video,
It
you
is.
might put Steve Brown's name in. But I remember seeing it that night. I'm like, what is this guy doing? They're going to kill him. You know what I mean? And I remember everyone put his arms up and let him just reach behind him and tap the It was cool. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Long story short, I remember kind of being surprised because this particular show, I didn't expect as much out of it. And I remember being pleasantly surprised because I thought the band sounded better. Now, again, I never got a chance to see them in the younger days. You know, I didn't get to see the early David Lee Roth era. But this was, for as much as I loved the album 5150 more than OU 812, I thought that this tour, and they played all the same songs, but I thought that this was a damn good show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I saw that arena fall OU 812 a couple times. It was great. But having gone and watched the big outdoor thing in June, a couple months prior, that was
Yeah, that's the one that, you know, the one thing I still, in hindsight, I look back on it and I wish I would have seen any of the Monsters Rock shows, because I think they played in Chicago 3 nights in a row, maybe 4 nights in a row. I mean, I remember it was like everybody I knew had gone to see the Monsters of Rock tour when they came to Chicago. And my friggin' summer job had me like, basically for 2 months, I was completely on lockdown, so I couldn't do anything.
Yeah. That I look back and I think, well, yeah, I went here and all these, but that's just one. I'm so glad I went and made that trip. You know,
It's a historic lineup too. Looking back on it, Tea Cake, much like the Metal Day from Us Festival, which is just you look at that today and you're like, that actually happened.
That's
but
unreal.
Similarly, look at your lineup: Van Halen, Scorpions, Metallica, Kingdom Come. It's a hell of a bill.
Wow.
Yeah. Plus, I remember that was all over MTV. MTV News nonstop covered the Monsters of Rock tour that summer, and I kept sitting there going, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm not there." Everybody's there.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. All right, John, you've seen this band a ton of times. What stands out as the greatest Van Halen show?
All right, I got one that's going to be out of left field too. So,
all right,
but you'll understand why. So, it was March 12th, 1998. Now we know that was the Gary Cherone era.
Yeah,
but I got to see. I got to go to the premiere party for the album, and they held it on the spot where Gazzari's used to be on Sunset Boulevard.
Oh yeah.
At the time, it was called the Key Club or Billboard Live or something like that. I think
same building. Yeah.
Yeah, same. Right, exactly. So we get there, we go in, and I
think in '98 it would have been Key Club.
Yeah, I think it was Key Club.
Key Club in '98.
Yeah. And so there used to be the Van Halen mailing list. I think some people, Quentin James, who you mentioned before, I think he made, I'm not sure, his name sounds familiar. He might have been in that Van Halen mailing list. So I got to go from that in there, and it was just a handful of us got to go. And so I had a 35 millimeter camera. Scotty Ross was their tour manager, and I was the only person in the place with it that had a 35. I remember the lady from Metal Edge magazine. Her name was Jerry Miller. And I remember seeing her with a little throwaway camera. She didn't even have it. And her picture she put in the magazine like a month later. But I had the camera in there. And so they did a radio broadcast for, the producer, Mike Post was there. The guy Rockford Files. He wrote all those theme songs, L.A. Law or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So he was there. And so they did an hour like worldwide broadcast. And they interviewed them. And they, and Warner Brothers had a photographer there, and we all got to do a meet and greet with them and get pictures with them and stuff. So it was really cool. And then they did the interview, but they didn't tell anybody that after the radio broadcast was over, they dropped the curtain and they had all their stuff set up on the stage. And so it was the first time they performed with Gary Cherone live, and he wanted to play all the old songs. So they played a bunch from their new album, 3 at the time, and then they played all classic David Lee Roth era of Van Halen songs, the rest of the set,
Yeah.
I'm the One. I mean, he wanted to play all of these songs. So I have to say, because of that and the proximity that I got to see, I've seen Van Halen now. I can say I saw him in a club, I saw him in an arena, I've seen him in a stadium, you know what I mean? So, and
wow, that's awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I have to say, so for instance, here I just pulled this up a second ago. I don't know if you can see it, but
oh my God, yeah,
I got a bunch of
backwards.
Yeah, like this, of Eddie, like smiling at my camera when I was there. It was an incredible.
Nice.
Man, that's wonderful.
That's awesome.
That one kind of takes the cake for me. I mean, here's another one. Let's see if you can see.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was amazing to be that close.
By the way, the Key Club was a good place to see a live band, man. That was a good venue.
It was a real night. It was really, like you said. Here's another one. I got a few.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I was just snapping away. I got like a ton of photos. Oh,
that's amazing.
I don't know. You might be able to figure out which song this was during.
Is he snapping?
Yeah,
he's snapping.
Yeah, I was doing the Bada part in.
That's awesome.
Nice.
It was
Show your love, man.
Yeah, and there's a Michael, Anthony, and Eddie one right there.
Sweet.
Yeah. It was. I have to say, because we did not expect that when that curtain dropped. They were sitting doing the interview before. See, they had couches set up and everything like that, and they're talking about the album and stuff like that. And then they moved all that stuff out of the way, dropped the curtain in there, and we were like, whoa, what's going on here, So, and the set list for that night was, I have it right here, Romeo Delight, Without You, One I Want, Mean Street, Unchained, Fire in the Hole, I'm the One, Dance the Night Away, Feel Your Love Tonight, and Ain't Talking About Love. They did all on that, you know.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It sounds just like a set list from the early era period. Those are songs I would have seen.
Yeah, so
Did see.
I think they dusted them off. I think they were enjoying playing them for the. So I think Gary Cherone is a great guy. Everybody can say what they want about the album. I like a lot of the stuff on that album. I really do. I would have liked to see him got a chance to maybe do another album with a real producer, maybe, or something like that. But he was a fan too, and he knew all these songs, and he wanted to play the songs that we hadn't heard in years at that point. Yeah. So we were like, this is awesome. So
it's very unique that you heard that, man.
Yeah.
Hey, gentlemen, I apologize to interrupt. I got to step out because fireworks are going off now here in Los Angeles, and my dogs are going nuts. I can hear them downstairs, and I am going to go check on them, take them out, calm them down, and I'll be back.
All right,
awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, but it was, so I have to say that was probably my favorite, show experience like that. I mean, other shows made it, there may have been higher points in other shows here and there and things like that, but when you're seeing them up that close, you know what I mean? Just, tiny club, it's like at a bar band almost,
Yeah.
Were you front row, John, for that? Were you right up against?
I pushed myself up to the stage, for certain points of it, and it's funny because they did a song that didn't make it on the album called "That's Why I Love You," and it was an outtake from the Van Halen 3 album, and there's a YouTube video of that song, and you can actually see us, the camera from above, in that little the footage that they filmed some footage for promotional use. For Van Halen 3 that night, and you can actually see us in the audience below the camera looking down. Did
they release that song like on the Japanese version or something like that?
No, they didn't, and they probably should have finished it and put it on the album. It was just kind of like a bootleg that's out there. It's called "That's Why I Love You," and there's another guy that they must have auditioned for, a singer named Mitch Malloy, and they also gave him that tape, like a demo of it, to put some words to see what he would sound like, I guess. But so it's basically the same song, but they worked on it with Gary Cherone too, and it probably should have made the album. A lot of people think it was a catchy, poppier type of Van Halen song.
But they played it that night.
They didn't, but somebody made a promotional video with the promotional footage from that night.
Oh, they made like a fan video.
They made a fan video of it with that song in the background. But yeah. Gotcha. But I did push myself right up to the stage. I had to. I mean, it's like,
sure.
I'm here. I have to do it. So,
and when they saw you taking cameras back then, it wasn't camera culture. And you were at a promotional gig. Not one person ever said, "Hey, put that away" or whatever.
No, because when they were letting people come in and checking our passes or whatever we had at the time, their tour manager Scotty Ross was also a member of that Van Halen mailing list. So he knew the group of us that were from the Van Halen mailing list, and he didn't care. He let me come in with the camera, and it was so. And I did notice, like I said, that the woman from the magazine she had a disposable tiny camera that she took pictures of, and they actually wound up in an issue of the magazine like a month later or 2 months later when it came out. But so I was kind of lucky that I got some good shots in there too. It's pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah,
I've got an old mailing list.
In a club. How many people can say that?
Yeah, it's true. That's why I have to always rank that one. I say, and then on top of it, we have like, the Warner Brothers took a photo of it. It was my wife and I with the band, black and white, and they mailed it to us. The photos, they had our addresses and they mailed it. It was really cool. One little funny thing is I always tell people a little story about that when they did the meet and greet thing. Eddie looked a little bit nervous, maybe because it was the first, and he knew they were going to play, and none of us did, So as he's doing the meet and greet, he just seemed a little nervous. So when I went up, I tell the story. A lot of people, I think I told it on Andrew's show too. But I have a very firm handshake. I don't know why. I just like have a death grip, I guess, when I shake people's hand. And I've all these old Italian relatives of mine say, "Oh," But so I shook Eddie's hand, and I must have crushed his hand. And it's so funny because in the picture from the meet and greet, you can see him holding his hand like mangled like this. Yeah, he did not seem very happy.
Oh.
So
That's great.
Yeah, so I have a picture of his hand somewhere too. If I find it, I'll show it to you. It was actually
how do you shake your hand? Regular or wet noodle?
no, it was regular. Believe it or not, I have to say it wasn't. I never got the impression that he was like that type of guy, and I have heard since then that the tour manager would always tell people on the meet and greets, don't shake his hand, don't shake his hand, don't shake, no handshakes, no like that. But yeah, and I mean, I can understand why now. I'm trying to find the photo of it. It's actually pretty funny because he's holding his hand pretty much mangled. It is pretty But I did see him like a week later after that, and I mentioned, I apologized. I go, hey, at the thing at the club, the Key Club last week, I go, I crushed your hand. I go, I apologize for that. But he was like, no problem, man. Don't worry about it. Like, so I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
He was awesome. Nice about that. But I got to find the photo of that. But if I find it here in a minute, I'll hold it up for you. Let me see.
Nice.
I think I can find it here.
How were you able just to casually meet him the following week?
They were in New York doing a promotional thing for the album in Times Square. They did MTV, which is in Times Square. And across the street, there was like a Virgin Records thing. So they were going to be in Virgin Records. So we just went over to Virgin Records, went in, got online, and we went in, and they signed the album for us. And I got a picture with him there too, actually.
That's awesome.
And he was in a real good mood there that day. But here you go. See his hand.
Oh my goodness. That's great.
So I can say, I almost broke Eddie Van Halen's hand, I guess.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, but
how did he play that night? Good.
He played pretty well. So I guess it didn't affect him too much, maybe it loosened it up a little. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But, I had another picture here, but let me see if I can find it. Where is it? I just saw it a minute ago. Well, carry on. If I find it, I'll show you. There was one other one from I think from that record store when I was talking to him about. Here it is. Actually, that's from like the week later.
That's a great picture.
Yeah, that's a good one of him.
Yeah, over the years, I've been lucky enough to get some like good ones of him. A friend, when in the right place at the right time. I mean, you guys, I'm sure a lot of people will met him at one point, one or another. But like this is my favorite one, probably right here.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah, that's in your video.
Yeah, that's the one. I figured I didn't have to give anybody like credit for it because it was my friend took the picture. He was waving. I go, Ed, hey Ed, and he leaned over and waved. So
that's killer.
Yeah, and that's Ernie Ball right there. The guitar Ernie Music Man.
Oh,
Ernie
really?
Ball. Yeah, that's actually Ernie Ball himself right there. The old guy right there. Yeah, and that's his son, the bald guy in the background.
John, can you tell us the story behind that photograph? Because that doesn't match any of the others.
Yeah, so this was in 1992, January of 92, and it was at my friend and I, we went to LA. We were going to go to the NAMM show in Anaheim. It was our first time, so it was great. It was even my first time in California. So so we got up the next morning. We had gotten those Music Man guitars. My friend, I guess, knew the general manager at the Guitar Center on Sunset Boulevard. So we went in. We said, hey, it was a Thursday morning, and we said, hey, let's go to the guitar store, before we head to Anaheim. So we went down there and we spoke to him, and he said, listen, you hang out, guys. He goes, Eddie's going to be here later. And we're like, what? And sure enough, the first day in in California, and and the guy tells you that Eddie's going to be here later. We're like, no way. He goes, yeah, we're doing a rock walk in the front. We're doing a hand imprints of a bunch of people, and one of them was Ernie Ball. And so Eddie was going to be here for that. Yeah, so we waited there, and sure enough, I mean, we literally I had one guy standing in between Eddie and me at one point. It was just and I couldn't get the guy. I was like, this guy probably doesn't even know who Eddie is. It was just like, can't you move? You know what I mean? Because he was literally that close. And so, a couple times during the thing, would be like, hey, Ed. So he'd lean over, and he was in a good mood. And we have a bunch of pictures like that of him. Here's another one.
Excellent, man.
There's that guy Tracy Guns from LA Guns is right there.
Yeah.
And Albert Lee, the guy who played with Clapton, is right behind him, right over there. But so and after that, I had a camcorder. I actually have some kind of camcorder footage of the ceremony, but it's like one of those mini camcorder things, and you got to put it into a bigger tape and then put it in a VCR. It was back in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. So I got to get it. I don't even have a VCR because I was going to try to copy it. But my camcorder died. My friend had the regular camera. And so I went behind the building. You go through the building, and where that big mural was painted of Eddie about a month or two ago, the one him on the side of the building. So in that exact parking lot, I put the camera in the car. And as I was finishing doing that and starting to walk, towards the tunnel to get out to the front of the building under the parking garage and in the back, Eddie and Biff Ball, Ernie Ball's son, came walking out of the back entrance of Guitar Center. And I got to shake his hand and say hello to him right there. So it was pretty cool. And
awesome.
Yeah. So it was just a great experience. I remember calling my girlfriend and saying, "I just met Eddie Van Halen." She's like, "Get out of here!" You know what I mean? It was pretty cool.
Excellent.
That's killer.
Yeah, that was definitely a cool, a very cool experience. But they all say never meet your heroes, you'll be disappointed, you know what I mean? But I met him a few other, I think 4 times totally. And he was nice every time. Just seemed like a normal guy. He really didn't seem to be too hung up on the fact that he was Eddie Van Halen, He seemed like a normal guy. So
yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. So I had very good experiences like that, So
let me ask you, John. So you, as many times as you've seen Van Halen, were you like me where you had multiple venues near you and you went and saw them a lot at once?
Yeah, I'm lucky because I live in the New York metropolitan area. So I had the Meadowlands, Madison Square Garden, Nassau Coliseum, within a stone's throw of where we are here. And I remember even on the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tour, I think I saw them 8 times, I think, on that tour. I even went up to Providence. We even drove up to Providence to see them up there too. Nice. So, and that was a great place because I'd never been there.
Venue.
So small. Yeah, so small. It was so good there too. So so that was one of the good things about living in New York. There's a lot of bad things about it, but that was one of the good things is that you have, all these venues that are there. So I could go see them at the Meadowlands, and if they played at the Garden, I would go see every show when they were in town,
Did you ever see them outside at Jones Beach, like say on the Balance tour when they used to go out and play the sheds?
Yes, definitely. And Jones Beach is just, and if I always tell people, if you've never been to Jones Beach, you got to go see a show there. It's just amazing on a summer night there. It's really good. So I've seen them there. I saw them the last time I ever saw them was up at it's called Bethel Woods, and it's basically on the site of Woodstock where they had the concert. The hill where the Woodstock concert is right here. You're walking by it. You can walk over and look at it, the plaque, and see
It's a mini shed. It's not a big 20,000 seater. It's a smaller.
Exactly. It's a smaller one. And that was the last place I saw them in September, I think September 6th, 2015 or something. That was the final time I saw them. And but it was great because it's right, the Woodstock Hill. It's not as big in real life as it looks on all the photos. You know what I mean? But it's right there. It's a really great place to see a concert. And they were phenomenal as usual. It was but it's funny. I don't know if you guys ever felt this. The last time I saw them, I did have a tinge wow, this could be the last time
I felt that way too. They played Raleigh in August, and I looked at the whole. I even had that in my brain prior of going. This is it.
Yeah. I felt it too. I remember at Jones Beach during Jump or something like that. I just got chills, and I'm just thinking, I was like, wow, I think this could be one of the last times I see them. I did get to see them a couple weeks later up at the Bethel Woods up there, but I felt that same night too, and I was like, oh, this could, I have a feeling this is it, and I don't know why, but I did feel that way. I think I even said to my wife, I go, this could be the last time.
Next day, John, the next day after Bethel Woods, did you reflect upon the show, but did you also say to yourself, I don't think I'm ever going to see them again?
I did, yeah. I just had a feeling that was going to be it. I don't the same thing as TK. It was just some weird kind of feeling, And
somehow, and even, I mean, prior of October, even from that last tour onward, I somehow knew in my head that was it.
Yeah, it's true. Anytime I saw a picture of him after that, for the first year or two, everything seemed to be okay. But then I just got a bad vibe. And then, I started hearing things. And then I think by 2019, I had heard somebody had told me that, Eddie's very, very ill. And I just kind of figured, oh boy, that was it then, And
Lenny Lou, you're late. Nice to see you, sweetie.
Hey, Lenny.
Mary.
But yeah, it's funny. We watched this guy before our eyes. It's like his lifespan before us. And come to an end. It's crazy. Sad that we saw it all from the heights. That the biggest band in the world, and we just watched it. And come to an end too, and come full circle in a way at the end. So
I always knew I was going to get to see Eddie again. I just knew it, I took it for granted.
Right.
And, I didn't go the last time when I should have gone.
Right.
I regret it to this day. I was well.
Yeah, he was essentially the Jimi Hendrix of our generation.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
The thing is too, I was kind of offended by maybe it's just me, but Paul McCartney, I saw Pete Townsend when Eddie passed. He said some really nice things about him,
Yes,
and but a lot of people I figured, hey, Clapton, you at least acknowledge, you were this guy's hero, and this guy changed the world. More people picked up a guitar because of him than anybody. And you know what? The thing is, the guys who write the Rolling Stone and these magazines, they're from that Hendrix era still. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they don't seem to get
they don't,
like you said, like Crosby, Matt. They were all like Matt. It's like if they came from that generation, it's all about Hendrix. So they don't even acknowledge him. But to our generation, he was our Jimi Hendrix.
Yes.
We didn't live through Jimi Hendrix.
And I don't think the media. I don't even think the media grasped. I think some of them did. You could tell the gravity of when he passed away, what he meant to people, not just guitar nuts or Van Halen nuts, but just to people who like rock music. I mean, he was bigger than people. The media.
Yeah, in the early '80s, I mean, Van Halen essentially changed pop culture. Absolutely. You don't get the 83, you don't get the '83 Hollywood Strip Quiet Riot onward without Van Halen setting that bar back in '78.
No.
And they spawned all that generation all goes back to Van Halen.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It does.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And not even that. Look at Michael Jackson, Beat It. That's like a crossover.
Yeah, he crossed over. Yeah.
How many people bought Thriller because
wasn't that the reason they didn't have their number one hit?
Yeah.
Isn't there something like Beat It was number one and Van Halen was number two for 10 weeks, and the only reason they weren't number one was because Michael Jackson, which was a record he was
that
on
album.
the lead.
Yeah,
exactly. So maybe Dave has a little beef with that because Dave never had a number one album ever. You know what I mean? And
take Michael Jackson out of that equation, though.
Eddie may have prevented Dave from having a number one album. When you think about it, right? Because of Baby.
That's true.
But catalog sales, number ones, chart positions is all well and good. But when it comes to catalog sales, with Dave, they had 2 diamonds.
Yeah,
and I read online today they're only of one of 4 other bands that ever had 2 diamonds. Yeah. I don't know what the other 2 are. I'm going to venture.
Hagar had the number one hits with Van Halen, and Dave had the sales.
Right. And you know what the thing is? I think I read somewhere that the bands have to pay if they want to get their albums recertified, like to go over the numbers and see what there's. But they've never cared to do it. Apparently, Van Halen, they don't want to pay for it. Whatever, they don't care. But you have to pay to get it recertified through the Recording Institute or Association of America, whatever. And but they think that like some of their albums, like Van Halen 1 or 1984, it's up more to like 18 million in sale. Not just 10, almost like 18 million at this time for like Van Halen 1.
I think like somewhere around the early 2000s, no records have been recertified since.
Right.
So it's kind of like they don't even count anymore.
No, exactly. And I think it's a lot more. So I think they're up around 100 million in sales, easily. Yeah. Easily, So I just don't think the media in general understands, what Eddie meant to, you know, a lot of people, you know? Yeah, there you go, right there, right?
Yep.
Look at those numbers. Look at 1984. I mean, and Van Halen won. It's insane.
Yep.
It's incredible.
Don't lie.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, people, I've heard people say that, you know, in the Philippines somewhere, you hear Jump on the radio, you know, and everybody knows Jump, you know, it's like,
Right.
It's one of those songs that everybody knows. Every sporting arena, every, you know, what is they're the top band. You hear how many Van Halen songs are, you know, theme songs for in sports arenas when somebody scores, or, you know, the Super Bowl is one. You hear Top of the World playing in the background or something, you know? So,
well, Jump, while you're on Jump, a lot of people say, you hear bunches of people say that when that came out and everybody was like, what is this keyboard? When I first heard Jump, it was easily recognizable as Van Halen.
Yep.
But I loved it. I absolutely loved it to hear those keyboards and Al's drums. Oh man, I loved it.
It was totally unique to the band for the time.
it was. It definitely
Totally
was.
unique.
Yeah.
And it had been incubating for over 4 years, because Steve Rosen has a tape where they're in a hotel, and in 1980 on Women and Children, he already had the sketch of the song on keyboards.
David Lee Roth was writing lyrics to Jump on a bathroom wall at the Whiskey on Christmas time in 1980.
It's amazing that, you know, a couple of years later, I bought the synthesizer, the same one, the Oberheim OB8. I still have it, believe it or not. It's like,
really?
I bought it for $800, and I think it's worth like $7,000 now. I look on Reverb, but
Wow.
it's amazing because I have the presets in there, and it's just the hair on your arm goes up when you play Jump, or it feels so good, or I mean, why can't this be? It just sounds. One of these, I got to get it all refurbished, but one of these days I got to plug it in. I mean, it's just.
Does it still play?
It right now, I haven't plugged it in a while. It's like with all my other gear, like in a corner.
Wow.
But I have to bring it and get it fixed. It's an old analog synth, but and it's
Those
like,
are the best kind.
Oh, it's yeah. It's the keyboard of the '80s. That basically that particular one. It's like on Journey, Prince. Everybody used that thing. The Police, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just those presets. If you hear them, it just makes your hair in your arm goes up.
It was the analog ones from the 70s and 80s hold up, whereas once they went digital around the mid 80s, around 85, that's when the stuff starts sounding dated and of its time.
Yeah.
But everything up until that, the analog synths from 70s to early 80s, those still sound cool.
And they're still using them. That's why they're so expensive to get, because they just sound so warm, and that fat warm sound, like, you know, on those Van Halen songs. But
they don't have that digital Casio, you know,
synthetic
sound. You know?
Yeah, exactly. They sound warm. But that particular keyboard, it's amazing. If you hear it, you'll be like, wow, this thing is so cool. You know.
I love it, man.
Yeah, but I have a lot of theories. Sorry to interrupt you. I have a lot of theories on them, but you know, one of them is like with Dave, that they had to implode like the way they did. You know, when you burn that hot like they did, you know, they just had to explode at that point. And I in a way I have no regrets, because I think you know, it all came full circle in the end. And I do think that there's some, you know, a lot of people argue about the eras, Sammy and Dave. I like it all. I really don't care. But you know, I do think that he was able to do things with Sammy that he wouldn't have been able to do with Dave too. So, you know, it's just like, we got more of, you know, different types of things. And you know, and I will say, when you burn that hot, you're going to explode at some point. And they did, you know what I mean? Because they were just too good, you know? They were too good. They never last, you know?
Yeah.
John, I always maintain, and a lot of people argue with me on this one, that the first 6 Van Halen records, the first 6, I dare you to find a better 6-album run out of the box. A lot of people say Led Zeppelin. I don't know if I buy that. I'm not of that generation.
Yeah, I think you're right, man.
I mean, for that quality and the fact that they had
Van Halen won through 1984. There's not a bad note.
And to think that a lot of that stuff was written before the first album even came out. All these ideas, like you find out you find out all the years he was still using ideas in 1990 that he had back in 10 years early, 15 years earlier. Like
House of Pain on 1984 dates back to the club days.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like that's you could use the word genius. You really could for him, because it's just like the output that he had, and aside, and I'm not even talking about his guitar playing. I'm just talking about the songs that guy wrote. There's so many great guitar players out there, and we know he changed the world as far as that, but just those songs, you know what I mean? It's like everybody said, like Yngwie Malmsteen's a great guitar player, but 100 years from now, people will know Jump, maybe, you know what I mean, or Panama or something like that.
He didn't have the songs,
right?
No, I mean, he had just that gift of writing the riff or the hook. It's just it's amazing. That's why I hope we get to hear some of the stuff that's on the shelf in the studio in the back there.
There's a lot of shredders out there, but Eddie could channel it in a way that everybody could get it.
Yeah, he had a special gift. Special gift.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago backstage, Analog Kid, where if he's doing House of Pain all these years later, what are the other songs that we don't know about
that he didn't demo?
That we'll never know. And if he comes out and he's playing, and not just a little main riff, but he's playing the first two verses of Amsterdam,
right,
absolutely note for note in 87, and it doesn't appear until 95. What else was there? Why didn't that song appear on Unlawful Carnal Knowledge?
Yeah.
You
know what? I really believe that him and Alex would just show up at that studio and they would just roll a tape, and the two of them would just go in there and just jam. And I think that there's probably just little ideas on little pieces of everything on. There's probably tapes full of little ideas that
Eddie taped everything.
Yeah,
he taped everything.
Yeah, it's
yeah, he did.
So you can imagine, and listen. I guess in the last few years of his life, I often wondered, I wonder if he's if he's still recording anything or doing anything. But I don't know. I mean, I guess when if they tell you, hey, listen, this is what your situation is.
Too sick, yeah.
Well, yeah, and then this is what your situation is, and obviously, I'm sure you get tired of touring after a while. You don't want to do that anyway. And he probably said, hey, listen, you know what? I love motorcycles. I like racing cars. I don't know how much time I have left. I think I'm going to do all this. I love watching my son and do his music, and we'll still jam and stuff like that. But I wonder if he just kind of said, listen, I got other interests that I want to do now too. You know what I mean? While I can, So,
sure.
Because I figured, maybe they have a whole other album recorded, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. I think it was. I think he just had other interests that he wanted to pursue.
It's probably like you said, John. A lot of fragments.
Yeah,
would be my best guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Charles, so what is going to be your number one Van Halen show of all time?
It would be in 1980, the very first show that I saw. I saw it twice. I worked one and I saw the other. It's just the one show that just sticks in my mind as my first impression. When he played On Fire, the guy standing next to me, his face melted off during the lead solo. I swear to God. I mean, it was just the beginning of a roller coaster, a lifelong roller coaster of my favorite band. And so it's just to beat that. It's just hard.
Yeah. 1980.
The first song I ever heard Van Halen play live was Running with the Devil. The last song I ever heard them play live. I want to say, yeah. God, I can't remember it, you guys. I can't remember the last song I heard him play.
Probably.
What year was it?
He's 84.
Ah.
I can't remember. It'll come to me after the show. That's how it always works.
Must be. Ain't Talking About Love, I think.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. That's the last song I ever heard Van Halen play as the band in the Roth era with Eddie playing guitar. That's the last time I saw Eddie play guitar live.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, kid. What's your number one show of all time?
I already gave you my number one on the first round, so I'll have to go backwards. We were doing our runner-ups first. I gave you my number one.
And that was 07.
November 07, Centrum. First time I ever saw him with Roth. Redemption from High School, 1984 tour.
Nice.
What's your
If I
runner-up?
have to go for a runner-up, then I'd have to go back to my first show, which was 5150.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But through the Hagar years, I enjoyed seeing Eddie Van Halen. I enjoyed seeing Van Halen, the band. But I also felt I was missing something.
Yeah.
When Roth came back, I felt like this is the Van Halen I want to see.
I must say that I hear a lot of people like Neil that said the first time they saw him was 86. And although Eddie was at his very, very best in 86, in my opinion, as a player, when I had been a Van Halen nut for a few years already, and I mean a huge Van Halen fan. When Dave left that band, it was crushing. I mean, it was crushing. It's like music is over, all of it. And when I mean, when you went and saw that band with Roth, it was like Christmas Day at age 11 or 12. I mean, it was that good. It was that good. But when I went and saw them, I had the album, 86, loved the album, had kind of accepted the fact of what it was. Eat 'em and Smiles already out too. Dave had already played North Carolina ahead of Van Halen. But when I went and saw Van Halen, it was in 86. It was almost like when you become 12 or so and you realize that it's Christmas, but there's no such thing as Santa Claus. That's what it was like. It was still great, but it was just something, the little magical element was gone all of a sudden.
You know, I not to cut you off, Tony, but I was thinking of something the other day about it. You know, I'm a Roth era guy. I experienced what you were talking about, the end of an era, the beginning of the new era. Neil is talking about 5150 era, his first concert, 86, the beginning of a new thing for him. He experienced it just like I did. He got exactly the same vibe out of it. Favorite band, different era. At the end of that era, when the Sharon era started, the 5150 era fans experienced the same thing that I did as a Roth era fan.
That's a good point.
Just as rough, just as hard to deal with. And when I finally realized that, it was that moment where I had this moment of solace. And I just accepted it as that's just the way it's going to be, because we all love Van Halen. And whatever the version of Van Halen is that affected you, that's your version.
Right.
And you
right.
can't outdo that. For one, it's the personal experience. And that's why I'm a Roth guy. I always will be, because that's what I know and that's what I experienced. Listening to Neil and you guys talking about it, whatever era you began to see Van Halen, that's where your roots go, and that's where they go. Your roots go as deep as your beginning with that band. And the many evolutions of Van Halen.
Charles, why in my case is Hagar was the era I experienced.
Because you never got to experience the first one, and you went at it from the opposite. You did it backwards. You're just unique. It's just another way Van Halen affects people. You can't write it. You just live it, and you're living of the version.
Yeah, you're unique. You're unique in your own, that a lot of people who we know who didn't see Van Halen until 86 or 88.
Yep.
They love that era. That's their number one, but not you. I always felt
like I wasn't getting the real deal.
Right.
I felt like
I understand that. I totally understand.
I felt like I was getting a facsimile.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word. I wasn't getting no Roth. I wasn't getting the real Van Halen yet.
Wow.
I still went.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna get another Coke out of the fridge.
Oh yeah. That is so cool.
Thing to say, John?
No, you know what? I think, like I was saying before, that I think in a way they needed to end with Dave when they did, because I think if Dave was singing some of the music that Eddie was writing, he did write all the music, and it would have been more like that Sammy Hagar, a little, not as hard rock, that kind of late 70s, early 80s hard rock. I think it would have watered down Van Halen's legacy a little bit. I like the fact that there's two distinct eras, because, listen, I like Charles, I started with the original Van Halen era, and that's my favorite ultimately. So when it came full circle and ended that way, I was real happy. But at the same time, I still see some value in the other Hagar years, but I just don't. I think I'm glad it kind of. Now I can say I'm glad. Now I can say I'm glad it kind of ended when it did, because I don't think it would have been the same if Dave continued on. I think it would have been, the music would have changed a little bit, a little more poppier and stuff like that. Look at Dave on his own did, just like Paradise and stuff like that. I can't stomach that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like that's the equivalent of the that would be what Van Halen would have been like if he stayed with them. I don't know, but I like just the fact that six pack, starts with Van Halen 1, ends with 1984, and that's it, man. And look, that's enough to carry us through.
If there never was anything else, we'd all still be just loving on those 6 albums.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly.
Well, your mind does want to think, what would Good Enough, Summer Nights be like with Roth singing, and you take vocals from Yankee Rose and stuff like that, and you try to imagine.
Tony, the thing I do notice about Van Halen, and the thing that I love about Van Halen, is the way that the lead singer in the Roth era affected the music. The band didn't change. The band always stayed the same. And the lead singer changed. And as the lead singer came in and changed, their input to that band molded a completely different band. The music's not the same. Eddie didn't play guitar the same. He evolved. And the fact that band came out in the Roth era and was the biggest band in the world, and then came out in the 5150 era with Hagar, and biggest band in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And even though I wasn't into Sharon, you can hear the difference. I really wasn't a big Sharon fan at all with him. I loved him in Extreme, but not so much with Van Halen. And but you can hear the music, and look at the difference in the music, the effect that the lead singer had on Eddie as a songwriter. The lead singer seemed to have such a massive effect. It just blows my mind every time I think about it and hear it.
Yeah, I think that's why they were so special.
Because the band didn't change, just the lead singer did. And that's part of that's got to be, Eddie was always looking for a new sound. He was always looking to evolve. He was always on the move and moving forward. He never stagnated, and because he didn't allow himself to. And so what he did was at least I think, he used everything he could from Roth. All the collaboration that he could and everything he could get, he used and he put it to use. And that music that we heard was what came from the Roth era. When he switched to Hagar affected him. The influence was just tremendously different, just as good. It's all Eddie. Yeah, it just blows my mind, man. Blows my mind how the influence of the lead singer changed Eddie's music that much.
Tea Cake, I think Roth would have been fine on Summer Nights.
We can only imagine what that next Van Halen Roth album 86 would have been. I mean, would have been great, I'm sure of it. But, history is what it is. Thanks, Claudio. Um, but according to Ted, if they would have waited just a couple of more weeks, Ted says Roth would have come back. If they'd have waited just a couple of more weeks. But when Roth hit the road, they were anxious. They were nervous. They called all kinds of people, Patty Smythe and whoever, and just people that were not even rock guys, and just I think they were scared. That they were like, what is going to happen? We need a guy in here. And Ed's, whose car is that there in the showroom? Oh, that's Sammy's car. What's wrong? You look bummed. My singer just hiked. Why don't you call Sammy? He called him from right there in the shop. He was anxious. He was anxious. He came down. It worked out. They liked each other and played and jammed, and history rewrote itself. But
excellent.
Templeman in his book pretty much said that. Ted Templeman pretty much said exactly.
Ted said it he did. I don't know what page exactly, but if he'd have waited a couple of more weeks, Dave was coming back. That they were,
it just cool down period, just like a couple of weeks, and everything went, and that's why I think when Ted heard that Sammy was in there, he's like, oh no, this is gonna, this is kind of gonna throw a wrench in things and screw things up. But if they just had let it settle down for a couple of weeks, everything would have been back. Yeah. So.
Not to say that that's a bad thing, because John, you touched on this earlier. It needed to end, and for a lot of different reasons, it needed to go away.
That's it. And I think the legacy is now cemented forever because it ended when it did, and it was just like, 6 albums of perfection. You know what I mean? And and that's forever how we're going to know Van Halen, because of that. The original Van Halen anyway. So
yeah. All right. So my number one of all time, and I'm going to show a very, very cherished piece of memorabilia that I've never shown on any of these shows or my other shows. It's been spoken about, but it goes with the story. And I'm gonna give you my number one. So New Year's of 1984, they debuted Jump on MTV. It's awesome, and pretty much fitting was when New Year's Eve, the day Jump debuted on MTV at the crack of 1984. Me and my longtime high school girlfriend broke up, and oddly enough, her name is Jamie.
Wow.
So Jamie, if you're watching this, so they hit the road right at the 28th. They begin the tour in Jacksonville, Florida, and a couple of weeks later, a couple shows into it, they're here in North Carolina. The guy who taught us guitar was 21 or 22. Really cool dude. Used to give us backstage stuff to, concert seats here and there. Just really into our music. Gave us after show passes to Greensboro in 1984. So
wow,
that is it right there.
Wow.
Oh,
so we go and lights go off. We make our run, and we're right in front of Eddie's mic, up against barricade, and really comfortably nobody around us got it made in the shade for a Van Halen show.
very
All
cool.
right. So there
Very-
we are, right up, and comfortably standing. And so Ed is right in front of me, and he chunked us guitar pick after guitar pick after guitar pick. And I was getting guitar picks during Unchained, first song.
Excellent.
Then by the end of the night, I think I had 8 in my pocket,
That's so
maybe
cool.
7. I had a couple of mics also, 1 or 2. We gave them away at school the next day.
Wow.
Was on a weekday. But so
Wow.
we have meet and greets. And this is Van Halen. This is once in a lifetime. I'm 18 years old and the biggest Van Halen nut on planet Earth. And so they said to meet us in 202 or 212, which is Mike's side of the stage. After the show, there's like a little chain that they undo, and that's where you could see the people were waiting, and they usher us into this room, and there's food, there's catering stuff, and just two buddies of mine, Dave and Dave, we were looked to be the youngest people in this room. you know.
Wow.
And in this room, they're casually talking and eating plates of food, and like they were waiting. I was like, man, where's the band? You know, I mean, I'm ready to meet my heroes here. You know, this is and you know, we're trying to be cool. And I think that the members of Autograph were in the room. I remember Kenny, their drummer, the one that had the wild hair and loud mouth and stuff. I remember him in there. But so now this is right after the tour started. Ed's wearing the patch pants. He's wearing the yellow and black coat and no shirt. And he's got a red and black like zebra bandana around his neck. And he takes the coat off halfway in the show, and he's playing the show. And so we're in this room, and we're near the entrance of the door and looking out, and there's people walking by, working or whatever, and they're showering, and maybe they'll be in here and we can talk to them. And so, and not just a couple of minutes after this, and we're right by the door, Ed and Val are standing literally right fucking behind me.
Excellent.
They're right behind me. Ed's got the coat back on. He's still got his stage clothes on. He hadn't, and they were looking around the room like they were looking for somebody.
That's great.
And you know, it's that moment. You know, it is that moment. And all of us, not crazy like, but we're like, Ed, how's it going? I'm Tony. I'm David. I'm Dave. And shakes our hand and looking around still. And I said, Ed, can I have that bandana? He looked at me. He said, this? Yeah. And Val spoke up and said, oh, Ed, and reached around his neck and untied it and gave it to me.
That is so cool.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me get this.
That is absolutely phenomenal.
Sweet.
That's it right
That's so
there.
cool.
Oh man.
This has been hanging around my PD cardboard Eddie since 1995. I had this, actually put this, me as a idiot kid, hung this on my rearview mirror
Oh, geez.
for about 6 months.
Wow.
But one of the pieces on the back, this thing has become brittle, and a big chunk of the end came off, and I mailed it to Johnny. But yeah, I've got a bunch of Van Halen memorabilia
That's it right there.
and stuff, but
Wow. Man, oh man.
That's awesome.
I will tell I will tell you this.
Wow.
There is no amount of money on this earth. There's no amount of money.
Oh, God, Tony, that's the best story, dude.
Yeah, that is awesome. That's an awesome time period. Awesome story. That's definitely. You never ever will part with that.
No.
I have a feeling when Tony goes to meet the man upstairs that he might have that around his neck and in the box.
Well, the meeting itself was no longer than a couple of minutes, and oddly enough, we didn't get to meet anybody else that whole night.
Wow.
We were in there probably an hour after that, and they just left little by little, and we were like, oh well. But at that point, I didn't care.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
That was your.
I wasn't beside myself. I was above myself. You know. Yeah. But so yeah, that was yeah, that has got to be my number one, and I've got the bootleg from both the Greensboro 84 and the Charlotte 84. But yeah,
historic tour, 1984.
What now?
Historic tour, 1984.
Oh yeah, but the one thing I noticed though, right off the bat, as they came out, and you could see Ed first. Ed came out, and it's dark, but Ed was standing. The first thing I saw was the pants in the dark. He was just he was right there. And I saw the pants, and he's right there. And when the lights came on and the music began, it dawned on me really quick that he's got a new guitar. This is not the Frankie, you know. What on earth? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was looking up at him and that new guitar. I'm like, he's got a new guitar.
It was brand new too.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
That's awesome. That was probably before the stickers were even on it, the 5150 stickers when you saw it. It was probably that new, right? It was only 2 weeks into the tour, not even?
Yeah. But my memory wants to say that they were already there, though. I want to say I saw that, but I've learned and seen pictures later that they didn't appear on that guitar or the 1984 until X amount of time in that tour.
Yeah, I thought I heard recently that it was remember the MTV Lost Weekend or something like that? I thought they said it was that weekend or something that the stickers appeared on the guitar. Like one night it wasn't in Detroit, or the next night was Detroit, and that's where they were on.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it read just recently. I heard that recently. Not long ago.
That's like April of 84.
Exactly. I think it was April.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you saw that guitar when it was just literally didn't have any scratches or anything on it. It was brand new.
Man, brand new.
That's awesome.
Now Keith had sent a shot of Ed, and I think it's that night in Greensboro. of him wearing this thing, but I've never seen any shots of it. The only one shot on the website, the Mighty Van Halen of that night, you can't see Ed's neck in the shot. But I've never seen. Keith sent me one, and most likely it is, but if he had any more like that or not, I don't know. That tour, he's got a regular red bandana, and the next night it's a black bandana, and the next night it's something else. But I would like to say, Keith, that it is, and thank you for sending that.
Super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, that is the only time I've ever met Ed. He's a little guy, and I look at his pants. I'm like, damn, a 9-year-old couldn't wear those pants, dude. You're a little guy. Yeah. I mean, but that meeting literally just lasted a couple of minutes or so. But yeah,
That's
good
awesome.
times. Good times.
Excellent.
But memories for a lifetime, T-Cake.
Yeah, that's an awesome one.
There's shots of us. I don't have them. I've seen them online of us at the hotel. We went back to their hotel after the show, and me wearing this thing, but we didn't get to meet anybody at the hotel. But we, yeah, that was fun.
That's the best.
That was fun. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Somebody was asking how tall he was. I'd say he was about 5'8", 5'8.5".
5'8". Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm about 5'10", and he was about an inch and a half shorter than me.
Yeah, I've never shown this. I wanted to make an episode out of this on the show, but I thought that since we're talking about our greatest show of all time, then
Awesome.
that's the greatest of all time. I've untied this a couple of times, and it's all the years, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get like a those shadow
box.
yeah, and I'm gonna make a little plaque thingy in there,
That's
but
wonderful, man.
yeah, yeah, that's something that I buy lots of memorabilia of all types, lots of guitar picks, and that's something that can't be bought and can't be priced.
Yeah.
That was smart of you to ask for it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he probably knew who we were all night. Ed's doing this to us with the picks, But I mean, yeah. But I don't know if I think Val may have saved the day there.
She probably did, and that's
yeah. Had I asked him if he'd have walked in there alone, and he said, Get out of here, kid.
Maybe.
You know. Yeah.
I recently saw a photo of his license. Did you guys see that? Eddie's license.
Yeah.
And we all lie about our height. You know what I mean? And he on his he wrote 5'10", I guess, or on his license.
Yeah.
But he was definitely not 5'10" because I was taller than him. So.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think that went for what? $6,000, $8,000 in that auction.
Wow.
Jeez. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I had my eye on it. But that's, yeah. All right. I guess Neil got held up with his dogs. Neil, if you're watching, are you there?
I'm waiting for a woof.
Looking back, though, I mean, it's tough to say that this show is the best Van Halen show. The show in Charlotte, the couple nights prior, that kicked ass too, or a couple nights after. You know, I mean, but just the fact that we cruised down front, there was no one around us. We were right at Ed's mic. Got a bunch of guitar picks. Met Ed. Got that. Yeah.
It was a good night for you. It was a good night.
It was a very good night. I was so jacked. I watched the sun come up that next day.
I bet.
That is
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. Good times.
Was it a general admission floor back then?
No.
Yeah. Well, the general admission probably ended after the Who thing in Cincinnati, right? And 79 or 80, that was probably it for general admission everywhere, really.
Pretty much. Yeah. Venues around here had that still, but not Greensboro Coliseum, not Old Charlotte Coliseum. It was assigned seats all the way. Richmond was general admission, even up to Motley and Whitesnake in 88, 87.
87?
Wow. Yeah. They had general admission, but it just depended on which venue.
Yeah. I saw 2 general admissions, both in Springfield, one in 86 and one in 87 for Rush. But all the other venues around here were not. Just that one in particular was. It was a small civic center, probably like the place that Neil saw Van Halen at in Rockland. It's a smaller one.
You got to be hardcore to wait all afternoon outside.
Yeah.
If it's hot or cold or whatever, and then run in, get as close as you can, and then you got what, an hour and a half or 2 hours up there, wedged in uncomfortably. Still, you had to be hardcore. And Charles, those cats down, if they lasted up against the barricade at the US Fest for Van Halen at the end of that night, they need a medal.
The intestinal fortitude that it would have taken to do that. And some people did, but not many made it. You shouldn't have to do that to go to see your favorite band at a concert. You really shouldn't have to. But there were people there who literally were there for 12 hours in the sun, doing whatever they had to do, waiting for that band to hit the stage.
Yeah.
They were survivors. And they're people just like you, Tony. You're saying you wish you'd have been at the show. I wish for you that I'm glad for you that you weren't, because you might have been really hurt. Man, we were pulling people. It was almost never ending for the first two bands, almost a two-hour period of time when the show started. And even after that, people were still coming in after the fact. People had gotten hurt and were in denial about it and waited an hour or so. And finally were like, you know what, I got to go see somebody at the medical tent. Jeez. And they would come in. So it was ridiculous. But yeah, Tony. Yeah. Van Halen is worth it. They're worth it. Life-changing band. Whatever version of that band you're into, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's funny because I can't, we're talking about our favorite shows. I can't, other than, the 2004 tour we were talking about, I can't say that I ever saw a bad Van Halen show, really, when you think about it, right?
Even when they were supposed to suck, they didn't.
Yeah, I just, like I said, other than the 2004, and I there's no getting around that, because I'd seen them enough times, and I remember one night at the Meadowlands, I didn't even know sometimes what song it was. The only way I could tell was from Michael and Alex, because Eddie would be playing something totally different the first night, and then the second night, Eddie was much better. He was on the second night at the Meadowlands that time, but I mean, that was the only time that I was kind of a little angry at him, just like, what are you doing, man? This is horrible. But every other Van Halen show I ever saw, out of all the other shows, I cannot say there was a bad show. They were all,
So you were actually fortunate enough, to look at it another way, to see Eddie give a bad show.
Yeah, right.
I never saw a bad show out of Van Halen. Even when Dave was doing the Yes Festival, I considered it incredibly entertaining.
Charles, you didn't see him in 2004, though. That's why. You didn't see the tour that John and I saw. But John, they did 2 nights at Meadowlands on the.
They did, and the first night
back to back.
I think it was back to back. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was back to back. And I remember I was so, after the first night, it was so just, I couldn't believe it. It was just, I was almost angry. Like, what is going on here?
Wow.
They shouldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? Just stop. You know what I mean? Stop the tour or whatever like that. But then the second night I went, and I was surprised. I was like, wow, he's much better. He wasn't completely better, but he was much better than he was the night before. Much better, Yeah. So, but that was, generally, it was always every other show, I never thought they had a bad show. I thought they were all pretty good,
Yeah.
That tour they started that whole tour in Greensboro, and they march out there and open the show with Jump.
Right.
And I was like, holy shit, the magic is back. But as the show wore on, you could see that Ed was not himself. And that's as nice as I can. Yeah. What I noticed is he wrestled with his cord constantly.
Oh, it was annoying to the point where it was just like, what are you doing? Leave the cord alone, He was whipping it around like a whip, right?
Yeah, but it was a good, not the greatest show, but as you saw more shows that year online and stuff, videoed, it was, that was not Ed's, not his best.
John, when you saw him, did he wear this hair in the Japanese samurai thing?
It's so funny. I was just about to say that, because at the beginning of the second night at the Meadowlands, I could tell right away he was playing much better. He was on, but as the show progressed, he got worse and worse. And at a certain point, the hair went up in that samurai thing. And that at that point,
when he first came out, it was down.
I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure it was down, and then later on it went up. And when it went up, I think that was, I'm trying to remember exactly, but I knew when the hair, that was a bad sign. I had a feeling like this is not good. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, later on it went up, you know.
Now on the first night, the first night that he didn't play very well, was he Japanese samurai from the moment he came out?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I'm
something
trying to
that happens later.
Yeah, it did. But that night from the beginning, it was just like I said. I didn't. Sometimes I didn't know, like Unchained or something. For instance, I wouldn't have even known what I'm like. What is other than Michael and the drum beat, you know, playing before the vocals came in. I a couple times I'm like, I don't even know what song this is. You know, that's how it was. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean that was just a bad tour.
Your date,
John.
I'll look up your date after we get off. I bet your date was pretty close to mine. Mine was in June that year.
Yeah, I think mine was. Yeah, it was probably a week apart from yours in the same week or something. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Were you Analog? Were you at the same shows as Lenny Lou was?
Yeah, I was at the same exact show that night. She was in the pit. I was texting her back when she was talking about that show. I was in the chat saying I was at the same gig.
So you guys, Lenny Lou in the chat, and you saw a very young Wolfgang on stage that night.
Yeah, he had sweatpants on, blue sweatpants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
and back then the internet wasn't what it was today. And I told her back then, back when that show aired, I thought that was part of the show. I thought he did that every night. I only saw the show once, so I just assumed, they do this every night.
Yeah, no.
I didn't know that.
You saw history, brother.
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
I saw history in more than one ways that night.
That was the first night, right? That Wolfgang came out up where you are, Massachusetts. Yeah,
yeah. He
came out at the Meadowlands too, and that was so he must have
been before you. Then they must have went south.
Yeah,
look up the date.
Yeah,
it was mid-June of 2004.
Yeah, I think it was
11th, 13th, something like that.
Yeah, I'm looking here right now.
Lenny, if you're here, I don't have the pictures that you sent because I got a new phone. So shoot me a picture real quick.
Lenny went to Hartford the next night and he wasn't there.
So June 23rd, I know it was one of the nights at the Meadowlands. So I think it might have been 23rd and 24th of 2004.
I'd have to look mine up.
Yeah, Lenny's got some great shots up close of Ed and Wolf on stage.
Mine was the 19th. When was yours? I saw him on the 19th.
One of them was the 23rd, and I know one of them they opened up with "You Really Got Me," and "Jump" was one of the encores, and then I think the other night they might have opened with "Jump" too. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, so you were the 24th. So they played the 19th at Worcester, the 20th in Hartford, and they were going south.
Yeah,
our dates are always right next to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Either they're coming up the seaboard or they're going down the seaboard.
Down, right? Exactly.
Boston, New York, Philly, New Jersey. They're all clustered together in either direction.
That's it. You're right.
That's why when I got hip to touring, when I started expanding my scope with Rush, I'm like, oh, okay, so I can see them at Nassau Coliseum. I can see them at East Rutherford, Brendan Byrne. I can see them at Madison Square Garden. I can see them at Jones Beach.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? All I had to do was just go a couple hours south. Philly.
Yeah.
Philly's only 6 hours from here.
Right. It's nice. It's nice to be able to do that.
Well, I probably shouldn't have been doing it.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
I'm looking at
Lenny said that she has sent those and it's not coming in yet. Oh, there it is. All right, I've got a few. Yeah. All right. Let me change. Check this out, John. This is Worcester, Mass.
June 19th, 04.
Yeah. 19th and 20th, I think.
Yeah, they did 2 nights.
And the Meadowlands, I think, was the 22nd, 23rd. Yeah, look at that. Wow.
Oh, those are great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right.
He was only a little kid.
Wow.
Awesome. Yep.
Wow.
I like this one.
Oh, that's a great picture.
That's a cool shot.
Nice.
This is better as
Pre-digital. She probably did those on a regular camera. In 04, there wasn't digital photography.
Wow.
Lenny, I really hope, honey, that you are gonna get to go see Wolf up your way.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope so, Lenny.
Yeah.
Fenway Park in August, right?
Yeah.
Where are they playing with you, John? At MetLife Stadium?
I think August 5th.
Is that where they're playing, though?
Yeah, MetLife, yeah.
You going, John?
You know what? I think I'm gonna hold out and hope for Wolfgang to do a little tour, like a club tour type of thing like that. And I
in the fall.
Yeah, I heard
he's added headline dates this past week.
Right. I was hoping he put one in New York. He didn't put one in New York. Not yet, anyway. So I'm sure
he will in New York. He will.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It's so funny as we're talking right now. I have the TV on over there, and it's like CNN 4th of July, and Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony are on right now, and the circle.
Nice, nice.
The Van Halen. It's a Van Halen night, you know.
That's great.
Me and Charles down there have seats, really good seats, to Raleigh in September. Them and Wolf and Guns. Yeah.
That should be good.
Now, these headline dates he's been dropping in, what are we talking about here? General admission, 3,000 seats and under?
3,000. He's playing Bogarts and Cincinnati, other clubs like that. He's added, like, there's, I don't know, 8.
Bogarts isn't that big. I saw Joe Walsh there.
Yeah.
It's not a huge room. It's
yeah.
a club.
Yeah, right.
Good.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he does something like, Irving Plaza or something in New York, like
Terminal 5.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Yeah.
He's going to play New York without a doubt.
Yeah, I would hope so,
Yeah.
I am. Market. He's definitely playing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can't play there because of the Guns date.
Right.
He has to wait for that.
I know that August 4th they're off. So I think I tweeted that something. I go, no New York gig on August 4th. I tweeted something.
Is that the night before or the night after?
I think it's the night before.
He has a radius clause in his contract.
Oh yeah,
he would have to get out of the area by like 300 miles to do an off night.
Oh, no kidding! Wow.
Yeah. There's a radius clause, but when that tour is over, then he can play.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll be, on the road for a while.
He could probably go deep into New Jersey and like play the T-neck or go way down towards Philly. As long as he gets a couple 100 miles out from New York City, he can do a gig.
I try to stay out of Jersey and Philly. And don't believe them. The pizza, they think New Jersey, they think their pizza is better than New York. It's not.
Oh my goodness.
The Meadowlands is a cool venue, though. I like that place. Nobody plays there anymore.
Yeah, it's just empty now. It's crazy, you know.
It was cool back in the day, though.
You know, there's a new one opening up at Belmont Racetrack on Long Island, and Nassau Coliseum is. I don't know what they're going to do with that. It's pretty much closed.
It's going to replace that.
Going to replace it. Yeah, the Islanders, the hockey team. It's their new arena, and it's almost complete. I drove by it last weekend, and it looks beautiful. So
then bands will start booking gigs there.
Yeah, so bands will definitely start.
Because in your Long Island, you guys only get the summer shed season now that Nassau is shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you can get the off season that Nassau used to get.
Yeah, or you got to go to Brooklyn to
Barclays.
Yeah, exactly. So
I didn't like it.
I didn't like Barclays either. It kind of reminded me of the Meadowlands. You know what? The Garden is still the best. Madison Square Garden is just, you know.
Yeah, Meadowlands is pretty cool though too.
It was, yeah.
But you're right. It's had its time.
Yeah, it definitely did. But the Garden it's really beautiful. They've done some job with it there, you know. So they spent a lot of money and they made it even nicer. So it's really, that's one of my favorite places to still see a show.
Have you ever seen a show in Newark?
I haven't.
I've seen a few there. That's a nice building. That's
I heard.
Devils play.
Yeah, I heard it's a nice building.
Big. It's bigger than the Meadowlands, but it still sounds really good, like the Meadowlands.
Yeah,
the one on the Meadowlands was designed and it really sounds good.
Yeah,
the one in Newark sounds really good. It's a great venue.
I saw some great Van Halen shows at the Meadowlands. I remember the Forum for Carnal Knowledge tour. They were that were great shows there.
I love that place.
Yeah, it was good.
Nice, Keith.
Wow.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure we've all seen that new Van Halen upload from New York, June 93 at Orange County Speedway in New York.
Yeah, I was at that one.
Oh, you were there. Cool.
And let me tell you, it was like, I think it was July 6th, 93. And I think Vince Neil opened up with Steve Stevens on guitar. Remember that album that Vince Neil did?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that was a wild, wild show because people were throwing M80s and up on the stage. It was crazy. It was literally, I mean, there were people diving in the audience. I was on the ground and I was crushed. It was kind of like a general admission thing. And it was, you know, there's one like I remember, you know, they had that heartbeat, boom, 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 going like that. And they opened up with Mine All Mine. And I remember there's the video of it. I was like right near where that guy was shooting the video for that. And it's like the one you see there. But it was a crazy, crazy show. I remember Hagar was even saying, whoa, you know, calm down. Everybody just back up. Everybody just, you know, back up. People are going to get hurt. People, you know, it was like, it was crazy there. I remember I don't know if some girl got hurt. Some guy was doing flips, climbing up on the stage and doing flips in the audience. And I mean, it was dangerous right up in the front. I stayed back a little bit. I was like, this is insane. Somebody's going to die here, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember them coming in there. It was so funny. We saw Eddie's guitar tech, Zeke. He was a big guy with curly long hair, and he was on like a 10-speed bike. And we were over in an area like parked on a field off there. And we saw him, and he drove right by us on a bicycle. I'm like, where the hell's he going? So we started walking, following where he was going. So we followed him up to the road. And I mean, it was just like cars parked everywhere and everything. And it was actually their limo pulled up with Van Halen in the limo. And he was on the bicycle, like showing them which way to get around so you can get into the back part of the speedway so that they could get into the where they had to park. So it was funny because we could see them in the car, you know, in the back of the car. It was pretty wild. But that was that might have been like one of the most dangerous, chaotic shows too that I ever saw of theirs. It was, but I tell you what, that was another great show. They were really on.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched that.
Right, you can see it on the video.
Yeah, I watched every bit of it. Keith Campbell here in the chat, he was there right up against the barricade in front of Eddie's mug.
Oh man, he's a brave. Keith, you're a better man than me. You're brave because I
Shea
wasn't going.
Hannon, he was there too.
Oh, no kidding,
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a great show, but it was wild.
Was it just Neil and Van Halen? Nobody else?
Yeah, that was it. It's like a dirt racetrack speedway, for dirt racing up there, and it's probably maybe an hour and a half north of the city of like Manhattan, and so it's up out of the way, but it's it was wild. That's definitely for sure. That one was wild. I'm sure. You said Keith was there. Keith could probably tell you some crazy. If he was up in the front, he probably saw crazy stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah,
great show.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to see new unearthed stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
That appears out of nowhere and waiting on that next one.
Yeah. All those videos, like the video like you had pointed out before, the Amsterdam video, that was great to see that. And then the one where Alex is giving the haircuts in the other video, that was great too. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that on that channel, that haircut isn't on there anymore. It's gone.
Oh, no kidding, really?
Yeah, it's gone.
Interesting.
Amsterdam's there.
Yeah, people were talking about that. The guitar for that Eddie was playing on at Amsterdam was a Charvel guitar. What I think was going on there, the other guy in the room was the guitar player from the band Private Life that Eddie produced their album.
Oh, that's who that was.
Yeah, so I think it was his guitar because I had seen I Googled it and I saw a picture of him playing a very similar guitar, another one in a black Charvel. So I think it was his guitar, and that would have, being that was '87 and Eddie had that like rat tail haircut. Yeah. So that had to be, after the 5150 tour ended, because I know the last night he cut all his hair off into that little rat tail thing. And Saturday Night Live was February of '87, and he had that. So it had to be around that era there. And I did a little research, and apparently Valerie had asked Don Landy to record a demo for Private Life, I guess before Ed was really involved with it. And Don agreed to do it at 5150, and Eddie was with Sammy recording Sammy's final solo album for Geffen.
Right.
At another studio in LA. So Don was working with Private Life there. So I guess when Eddie would come home, Private Life were all there working with Don. And that's why probably Eddie was in the studio there with the Private Life guy playing his guitar. And then I guess, he went on to get involved in producing the album there too with Don. I guess they did that. So, but I think, and even in the Alex haircut video, I think the guy with the camcorder was the bass player from Private Life.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
So that was, yeah. So when you said 87 before, that was definitely 87. You're right. But
yeah, those are, I mean, Ed had that nailed out. He played a couple verses, and then he even sat there and started stomping solo section.
Yeah. And somebody said he mouths in the video, "Don't let this get out," or something like that. Whoever was filming it, they said, "Don't don't let this get out," or something.
Mentioned that, but I don't think that's what he said. It's tough to tell what he says exactly, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Know. It's not that though. He doesn't say, "Don't let this get out."
Right.
He says, I don't know what he says, but. Yeah. Awesome though. And wild that we hear that so recognizable didn't appear until later like that. Yeah. So I mean that's yeah. Waiting on more of that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how much stuff off the vault we'll get. I'm not counting on anything. I think if we see anything, it'll be video stuff. We'll see private unearthed stuff like the Amsterdam stuff, but I just don't, me personally, I don't think that it's like what Wolf said. If Ed wanted me to hear it, he would have already given it to me.
Yeah, it's true.
You know.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know,
I think what we can hope for is that, you know, they seem to film, like, you know, if they got video, they seem to film every show, you know, from the last few tours, probably starting back in 2007 at least with Roth. You know what I mean? They probably have every show filmed from the last 2 or 3 tours, I would think. You know, you know, anyone they had video on. So hopefully they can release something from there, you know, and hopefully there's some other stuff out there, you know, old video stuff. It's just a shame that for such a great band, there's not a lot of old live footage. You know what I mean? Did they, you know, the Long Beach shows, did they record? Wasn't it Long Beach that they recorded Hear About It Later and Unchained, you know, back in '81?
Oakland.
Exactly where they were. Yeah.
So
Oakland Fair Warning's the earliest. Yeah.
Right. But did they, you know, some people said they recorded the whole show. Some people said no, they only recorded those 3 songs. So, I mean, I would hope there's something out there, you know?
Well, I think there is a lot out there, but whether it unearths or not, I don't know. Only time will tell. You know, it's. I mean, if you look back at stuff like I look at, there's a show that is out there. I've never seen it, but it's in this, okay?
Uh-huh.
And I was at this show right up against the stage.
Okay, Greensboro.
Audio recording exists. Warner Brothers films this show and backstage.
Wow. And that was July 16th, 82, huh?
Yeah. Never seen it. I was there. I took lots of shots at that show, but have never seen anything. So if anything like that comes out, you know.
Did you see the cameras there that night? Did you see anything?
I can't recall. I can't recall it.
Right.
Yeah, I can't. But hopefully, as time goes on,
well, I hope so.
Get more nuggets like that. You know, I mean, it's so cool. You know. Yeah. All right, kids. So we are a few hours into things. We're going to wrap things up here on July the 4th. It is now July the 5th. Yeah.
Excellent.
Analog Kid, Mr. Charles Green, always a pleasure. Let's thank our very special guest tonight, John Conklin.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. And I want to tell you guys, and if you're going to be in this area at all, the EVH Convention 2021, there's going to be an announcement coming soon for that, and it's going to be a special one this year too. So it's going to be
when is that?
I'm not sure the exact date, but I know there's going to be an announcement within the next week or two, I think, about that exact date. It's every year it's held at Greenwich Music in Connecticut, and it's a great time. And people come from all over and bring their, all their Eddie gear and stuff. And there's some amazing stuff there. And everybody gets up to play with the band. You can play with the band and play a Van Halen song. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, sounds great.
Lenny Lou in the chat was at the last one a couple years ago.
Yeah. So I was there too. I probably, it's a lot of fun. And if people can get there, it's a really, really good time. It's, you meet a lot of great people and you see a lot of great gear. And like I said, you can get up and play through a rig that's kind of basically the same rig that Eddie used on the wet, dry, wet setup on stage. It just sounds amazing. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. So
is it sponsored by his company or is it like a fan convention?
It's a fan convention. So it's even better.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's but it's just.
And they do this traditionally annually, not COVID withstanding. It's an annual thing they do.
Exactly, yeah. So I think the first one was 2015 or 14 or 15, and 16, 17, 18. Last year, because of COVID, like you said, that was the only year that I think we haven't had it. 2019 was the last one, but it's usually in the fall, and like I said. Right. Being an announcement, but if anybody, it's a great day. It's a lot of fun.
EBH Con 2021.
2021, and I know Eddie was aware of it, so he was definitely aware of it. He knew about it.
That's really cool. I never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I think there's a Facebook page. If you get a chance, you can look at it, and you'll see pictures. It's like people have all the custom guitars. Some guys have amazing stuff like Rob Johnson. He's got,
Rob's there.
The double neck from Diver Down. He's got a replica of that, and of all the different guitars that the Hot for Teacher, the 1984, the 5150s, the Frankensteins. There's all kinds of amazing stuff there that people have that you can.
Johnny's got stuff on his channel on 19's EVH Con. Dave Nesdall's got stuff on his channel too.
Nesdall's there every year, and I know Johnny did an after show thing a few years ago after one of them. So it's a real good time. I've met a lot of great people there, and Joe, who runs it at Greenwich Music, it's just a phenomenal job. Him and Jimmy Vomvis and all those guys are great guys, and it's a real fun day. It's a real fun day.
Do people set up tables and show their like Eddie Van Halen memorabilia beyond gear?
You could do that. Yeah, absolutely. That would be. I mean, people would love that kind of stuff, to see any kind of cool memorabilia and stuff like that. It's just a great day because, like I said, people come in. There's a band there that plays. You can get up and play. If you want to play a song, you can say, "Can we play Running with the Devil?" And they're like, "Sure, go ahead." And you pick up a guitar and you get up and you play with the band through the rig. It's just a lot of fun.
Nice.
And there's some great players there, and it's a really good, fun time. So we look forward to it every year, and it seems to get a little bit bigger and bigger every year. So, but announcement will be coming soon. It's after COVID now, it's coming back, and it'll be in the fall, I believe. So, but we'll know more very soon.
Excellent.
Yeah. Everybody's welcome. Yeah.
All right, kids. Go check out John's song. The links are down in the description. Surf's Up Eddie. It's a great song.
Thank you.
I've listened to that song a number of times the past week or two. It is a great song.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks.
Absolutely. And John, hope you can come back here, dude.
Anytime.
We would love to have you back. Absolutely.
I had a great time.
Hang backstage and we'll get out of here. Everybody, thanks for watching. Happy 4th to you. Be safe out there. I hope you're off tomorrow. I am. All right. Any last words there, Mr. Charles Green?
Yeah, all roads lead to Van Halen, you guys. Rock on and take care.
Thank you.